takes off. And the freshman gets the corner. It's a foot race. Knocked out at the one. Now you see the talents.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
Feely in motion. Got a man down the sidelines. It's him, Toafili, and he is off. One man to beat, cuts it back, and brought down to the 20-yard line by Sheridan Jones. They're going to say touchdown. He landed on somebody. Toafili with a magic act, and they're calling it a touchdown.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Here's Edwards with the lay. Donovan Edwards down the sideline. Gets past Ransom. Donovan Edwards. Touchdown, Michigan, the Don.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Looking for an option to the end zone. He goes. Touchdown, Canes. Jacoby George.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
This time in the shotgun. Play fake. Fowler to the end zone. Touchdown. Penn State. Khalil Dinkins.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
They're going to go Wildcat and snap it directly to Mappa. He tries the right-hand side. He finds Pater. That's a Clemson touchdown.
Now here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
All right, here we go, 365 Sports, inside of our state-of-the-art studio in Waco, Texas, but broadcasting from coast to coast in every direction and even outside of the contiguous 48 states. David Smoke, Paul Catalina, Craig Smoke, thank you for your time today. A bunch of information today out of the Big Ten media days, the ACC wrapping up their media days. We'll have analysts who cover Miami, but really also the ACC and Manny Navarro, and also one that covers Clemson, Florida, Florida State, and then, of course, we also have Craig's Off the Radar and Paul's Top 5. Jaden Nunn, Baylor basketball, and the new digs, the new practice facility and more locker rooms will join us at 4:25. Dan Lanning was hot today. I really like him a lot. Dan Lanning does not mince words. When it comes to NIL, do we have a lot more than everybody else? That'd be an exaggeration. We'd never lose. Everyone else right now is focused on our ice cream cone. And if I'm busy looking at theirs, that means mine's melting.
Yeah, I like this. Smokey, when you and I started working together, there were some people who tried to upstart and maybe do a sports talk show or something like that. And it was we never paid them any mind. And that was kind of your advice to me as a young broadcaster was you can't worry about what they're doing. We can only worry about what we're doing. And I think that does, especially when it comes to NIL, not necessarily recruiting. When it comes to how much NIL money you have, the only thing you need to really know is how much do I need and what are the going rates? But if you're sitting there going, oh, man, are we going to catch up to Ohio State? Or are we going to Texas just gave this guy all this much? Then you're probably not focusing on what you really need to. And if you don't have the money to get a guy, you don't have the money to get a guy, but you still are going to go and raise that money.
Yeah, first of all, he practiced that line for sure. I wonder how long he practiced that and how long it took him to come up with that, but it's a good line. So it was worthwhile saving that up for media days. That was also the case when we started this show. We weren't so much worried about what our old place was doing, but I think that was something where they were definitely probably looking at us like, what are they up to over there, And I think that's what Dan Lanning is getting at. To your point, Paul, is you can't be worried about what everybody else is doing. Ultimately, you've got to be worried about yourself, and I think he's got the right mindset there, and that's the mindset everybody should have regardless of their NIL stacks. But, yeah, you can't help but understand, too, to some extent, that there are teams in the Big Ten or teams that just go head-to-head with Oregon regularly that can't avoid the stack of, NIL dollars that Nike and others have provided Oregon with. But that's just something you've got to, fight against and find a way to beat on occasion. But, you can't sit there and dwell on that. So Oregon's got to worry about Oregon, and that's what he's doing, and it seems to be working really well for them right now.
There was another quote from him. I don't have it in front of me, but another quote that was asked about it. He goes, you wonder about Kirby Smart in Georgia and other programs. That's where he used to be, always having these number one ranked recruiting classes. So I guess that's amazing that they're doing that without any NIL. They didn't take a shot at his old boss. He also made this comment, couple of 3 or 4 rat-a-tat-tat from the Big Ten. Dan Lanning, we're mighty different. I hope we get to take that big floating duck all the way to the away games. We're innovative.
Take the floating duck to all of our away games. Yeah,
that's what
we're innovative. That's something we said yesterday. It was a good idea to have that big, inflatable rubber ducky that they had out there on the river, and certainly got a lot of attention on social media and a lot of play around Big Ten Media Days. And, that's the word that I would think of when I think of Oregon as innovative, whether that was Dan Lanning or, prior to him in multiple instances. So they are going to bring something unique to the Big Ten, and that's from uniforms to their, just style of play to their attitude and obviously their place on the map. So, I'm looking forward to Oregon. It's still kind of washing over me that they're in the Big Ten now, but it's starting to become, sort of like I'd say that they were it's starting to sink in. It's starting to become commonplace to just refer to the Big Ten with them, but it's still going to be unofficial until they roll out there on the field for the first time with those logos and, they're playing Ohio State or something. I think it's going to take a little while for that to sink in, but they definitely bring something different. They definitely bring something along with the others, but them in particular that makes the Big Ten more exciting, I think. Brings a nice fresh coat of paint.
Yeah, they've had teams like Ohio State who can score, et cetera, but this is a different type of animal here. Mm-hmm. And I look forward to seeing how they do, and it gives them kind of a nice little pick-me-up, a little adrenaline rush just because of what Oregon brings to the table.
Okay, here's where they would go. They're going on the road, and I don't know if the bodies of water in these places can support a gigantic floating duck, but I would assume that there's some water near Corvallis, Oregon.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Look, there's plenty of water in L.A., maybe not near the Rose Bowl per se, but they're going to play at UCLA, so
Corvallis is right on a river, by the way.
Yes.
It's like directly on a river.
Yeah, so Corvallis on the river.
The Beavers.
Yeah.
A beaver and a duck fight.
Yeah, Rose Bowl. The Rose Bowl is in L.A. There's the ocean there. I'm sure they could put it to Santa Monica Pier.
Miles
bit
away.
away. That's,
but even still,
you can kind of see it from Pasadena.
Yeah,
I guess,
but I don't know what Pasadena where
out
you
of
drop
Lincoln
it.
Riley's backyard.
Yeah,
that's more inland and up for LA. But you can. I think you can. There's probably somewhere around there where you can see the ocean from a ways away.
The Rose Bowl isn't really close to UCLA's campus either.
No,
so,
it's not.
I mean, they also go to Purdue, West Lafayette, and they go to Ann Arbor, and they go to Camp Randall. So around there, I'm sure there's a
well, you got all those lakes up in that area.
Yeah, Michigan. You got
West
somewhere you
Lafayette's
can,
on a river.
Yeah, so you can probably drop it somewhere.
You can land, FedEx it, and then have somebody there to blow it up when they get outside wherever they are to put it on the water. PJ Fleck, one of Paul's favorite people.
Now that I'm looking at this, like every one of these cities are on a river. Like Ann Arbor is right there on a river as well. So I actually think there is something to the inflatable duck being able to travel around.
I wonder how many of the stadiums are actually on the river, because remember now, Knoxville, Baylor.
Hell, are they doing the Baylor, Oregon? Is that home and home? Or is that?
Yeah, I think
it's
it is.
Yeah, that's home
it's
and
like
home.
a split time
Put
period.
it right here.
Absolutely. We'll do our show on it. Minnesota's PJ Fleck, who's a little bit quirky, but has done a nice job with them. I'm not for everybody.
This is the first thing he's ever said that I agree with. He's not for me. He's an excellent coach. I'm not going to knock that. And he does more with less than most. That's good. The Tony Robbins stuff I just can't jive with. I just can't do it. I cannot. He's like one of those, CDs people used to listen to. Maybe they still do, like podcasts in their cars about, if you can dream it, you can do it, kind of a thing. I don't know. I just don't go in for that.
Yeah, I don't even know. I mean, is he still like that? I couldn't even tell you. I have not paid much attention.
Pretty hyper.
Yeah, no, I know he's still hyper, but I don't know as far as like the motive. I just haven't listened to much of his interviews and stuff. Like when he still had hair and he was the big hot to trot before he took the Minnesota job. Like I remember seeing tons of him then. I've watched Minnesota a few times, but I haven't paid much attention to him since he's gone bald and been there for a while. But I know Paul always had an issue with his style, but yeah, I don't know if he leans into that as much as he used to. I genuinely don't know. So yeah, if he does, I can see where that would still be something that's definitely not for everybody. He's different. He dresses different. He's got a different style about him. So yeah, he's not for everybody. But as long as he's from Minnesota, that's really all that matters.
Well, as long as he's winning there and then taking him to bowl games. Okay, a couple of more quotes. A lot from Washington. Dave Softy Mahler, our buddy. Washington, this is, which one do you have there, Garrett?
Right here, we got scholarships.
Okay, so Washington, this is pretty amazing. They are down so much. They have 21 of 22 new starters, entire new coaching staff that has never been done before. And then, of course, it's a reboot. As Jed Fish was saying, an absolute reboot. I put attention to Kalen DeBoer at Alabama, even obviously what's going on with Brennan at Arizona, among some of the other coaching changes. But I completely forgot that Washington was completely wiped out because of great players moving on to the next level and or some of them moving.
Well, that's kind of weird you'd forget that because they're right at the center of the entire Saban retirement because
no, that's what I'm saying. You look at what Alabama's been able to hold it together compared to Washington was just basically torched. I didn't know they had just one star. I thought they had 5 or 7, but everyone's gone. Yeah.
They got cooked. They were going to lose a lot anyways. When you're talking about Roma Dunze and Michael Penix and Jalen Polk and so on and so forth, they were already a team with a lot of veteran guys. So, yeah, that was going to be an adjustment regardless. But then you add in all of a sudden the Bama job opening up, DeBoer getting that, those who followed him, just the natural transition of programs changing head coaches. And, yeah, Washington, I think, is a real wild card. You think that Jeff Fish is going to eventually do well there, but as good of a season he had at Arizona, like he didn't bring Tedero McMillan. He brought some guys that are pretty good players with him, but he didn't bring everybody. And so, yeah, I think Washington's really a team that is kind of under the radar, but maybe deserve it. I don't know, because I don't know that anybody really understands what to expect from them, especially in a Big Ten landscape.
All right, here's a couple other notes about Washington. With Kalen DeBoer, the first year, obviously, only one starter off last year's team. On his staff are 2 guys, familiar fathers, defensive coordinator Steve Belichick and son of Bill, and offensive coordinator Brennan Carroll, who's Pete Carroll's son. So that's a part of his staff, too. 46 new scholarship players, 1 starter back. And then Fish said, let's not forget, though, this is from our buddy Softy, Washington football has beaten Oregon the last 3 times we played. We've beaten Texas the last 2 times we played, and USC the last 2 times. And we've played, and we're coming off winning 25 of 28 games. Now, a lot of those guys are gone, but he's trying to still say, listen, we're not some one-year wonder, but a lot of the ones that won 25 of 28, of course, are no longer with the program.
Yeah, you know who didn't win any of those games?
Jed Fish.
Yeah, Jed Fish didn't win any single one of those games he just talked about. But I understand he's got to promote the brand and his program, and that's what that program has done. So, yeah, you're right. That is what Washington has been able to do. So he has a point there. But, yeah, it doesn't take but a second to tear through that point and go, well, you had nothing to do with any of that. You just got here.
Yep.
I do think, though, it speaks to just Washington's ability to compete at the highest level and compete with the quote-unquote big boys that always get mentioned before they get mentioned, for example. I think Washington is one of those schools, too, that even though they just played in the Natty, you start listing off, like, who are the elite programs? It takes a while to get to Washington. You mentioned Oregon before them. You mentioned USC before them. You mentioned Michigan. You mentioned Ohio State. You probably mentioned Penn State. I don't know how many others you mentioned, but that's at least 5 schools before you get to them in their own conference. So, yeah, Washington's a program that's been very successful. They just haven't necessarily broken through all the way since the early 90s in that natty. But they've been pretty good, and there's fair reason to believe that once they get their feet underneath them, that Jed Fish can have them, humming along and doing the same things that Kalen DeBoer had them doing.
So you guys can tell me this. I saw this story. We have a group text, and then the emails we send, and Garrett gets a lot of them, so if we put them up on the screen. What in the hell's going on with the cat fight in Wisconsin?
So Wisconsin beat Illinois last year, and it was late. It was in the fourth quarter, and the touchdown should not have counted because they had a lineman lined up as a tackle eligible, but he put on another jersey, which they do in college, because I guess, so lined up as a tackle eligible, caught the pass, won the game, and he did not report because as he had switched his number, which is what the rule is, and the referees ruled it a touchdown. Illinois lost the game. Brett Bielema has not forgotten this at all and won't talk to Luke Fickell. I guess blames Luke Fickell for the officials and all that, but won't talk to him. They asked Luke Fickell about it, and he said, is this why he won't talk to me? Brett Bielema still steamed about it. He tried to get the game overturned, as a matter of fact. He went as far as to request that from the Big Ten. But
Did the Colorado-Missouri game, the fifth down that Colorado scored on, did that ever get overturned?
No. I mean, again, nothing's going to get overturned ever, right? It's not, it would have to be
egregious.
Ridiculous.
Beyond,
Not human error of, we missed this call. Because if you're going to overturn it for a missed call, then you say, well, there was holding on the play before or on the one they scored. So that's a slippery slope. But yes, so now, I mean, they're already, conference rivals in the Big Ten. I wouldn't say Wisconsin versus Illinois is one that people all gather around their TV for, like the game, Michigan and Ohio State. But it's very interesting to me. I hope that it stays simmering. I think a lot of it just has to do with the fact that Brett Bielema up and left Wisconsin to go to Arkansas, and then when he goes back, now they don't say, hey, you were great here, we love you. Like, no, you left. And I think that part of it is there too.
They've been playing since 1895.
Yeah.
So it's a bigger
it's a bigger
them. Yeah. So,
but I enjoy. I'm here for it.
25-21 Wisconsin last year. 18 points in the fourth quarter, Craig.
Yeah, I don't have much to add to that. I think that Illinois shouldn't have choked away the fourth quarter, and I also think that there was a bad call made, and Wisconsin benefited from that because they, got away with it, basically. So it is what it is. That happens. I don't have a dog in the fight. I understand where Bielema was coming from, and I can understand where Wisconsin's, able to just laugh, enjoy their win, and enjoy how much he's still just, perturbed by it. So that should make for, a little bit of heat that otherwise, I don't know, not Big Ten historical, fan over here. So I don't know Wisconsin, Illinois' bad blood history, like you said. But
they play for a wooden steel pipe or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
I'm kidding. No.
Okay, well, I would have believed you. So, I mean, I really, like I said, I don't pay attention as far as, didn't grow up in that area and know those types of rivalries inside and out. So, for the outsider, which is what I'm getting at, it makes that more interesting if they do play. They're not playing this year, so you're going to have to carry this over a good bit. But, anything that adds a little spice to some non-Michigan versus Ohio State, Penn State combination matchups and can make something a little bit unique in an impromptu rivalry or something that just, adds on to something that was already there. I think head coaching rivalries are always good. I think they're healthy, and I think they're interesting. So, give me Bielema versus Fickell beefing with each other, and then I guarantee you I have way more interest in watching Wisconsin-Illinois next year than I would have in any other, circumstance, really. So, bring it on.
All right, so let's go. One more note on the Big Ten. Scott Dockerman is actually the one that had the note, but this is a response from Sean Callahan, who covers Nebraska. 2025 budget submitted to Regions. Iowa Athletics lists $75.2 million coming from the Big Ten this year, 61.82 a year ago. The Big Ten payouts, that means it's going to jump from 61.82 to 75.2 million this year. This is the increase in the college football playoff, among some other things. Nebraska, back 15 years ago, made $19 million. Now, there's inflation and a lot of that stuff, but it puts in perspective when people talk about, they suck. But, man, they're going to the bank just like some other schools that have changed conferences. But $75 million, that's about $35 million more than the Big 12 distributed, which is part of what we've known about, talked about for quite some time since a lot of these TV contracts were redone.
Well, now that Florida State and Clemson are in the Big 12, that
right.
still hasn't happened, has it? That's the growing gap that you've worried about, and it's kept you up at night if you're athletic directors in the Big 12 or in the Pac-12 when, that was still ongoing, and now it's down to 2, and so I'm sure it still, certainly bothers the Oregon State and Washington State side of things more than anybody right now, since they're the ones that are sort of teetering on autonomy status to begin with. But, yeah, certainly in the ACC, that's a big topic of conversation. So, and that trickles on down. Yeah, if you're not in the Big 10 or the SEC, you're at a money disadvantage, and not just a few million, but like several million, double-digit $1 million every single year. And there is only so much that those teams can pay for their rosters, and there's only so many cute things they can put on their stadium to stand out. But they aren't going to be facing probably as much of a crunch when it comes to their other sports as what you're facing. And so that just how much does that tilt the advantage, not just in football, but like in baseball and basketball, when there's so much leftover money that you don't need another waterfall. You don't need another Lamborghini. Like you have all that in football. Now you're buying your baseball team. You're buying your basketball team. Like how much can schools that are 20 million, 25 million, whatever the number 17 million is behind, can you compete with that on a year-to-year basis, and for how long before that becomes unsustainable? And I think that's what a lot of people are wondering right now. Or maybe it is sustainable. Maybe all that extra money, like you still have to have the right coach. You still have to have the right leadership and all that. But at least initial recruiting stages, you're going to get the guys who maybe go to Illinois because they got tempted by the NIL originally, and then, hey, you don't see playing time, so they want to transfer to Texas Tech or something. Like, you're still going to find players because players want to play ultimately, even though some of them just want to get paid maybe originally. But, yeah, like where does that money gap really start to stretch things out to where it doesn't matter how much you try to keep up. It's just a never-ending pursuit that doesn't get you anywhere, and that's the fear right now, I think, for a lot of schools.
All right, we've got Manny Navarro coming up at 3:30. He covers the ACC but also covers Miami. I'm going to push the Tennessee Stadium pictures back. Let's go to a quote from Lincoln Riley. He was asked yesterday about the Notre Dame rivalry and asked about does he hope to keep it. I would love to. I know it means a lot to a lot of people, the purist in you, no doubt. Now, if you get in a position where you got to make a decision on what's best for SC to help us win, and then, of course, what he's talking about is possibility of these games not being there. I would hate to see that happen. I have some great memories of just a kid watching Notre Dame and USC. He then went on to say this on future scheduling. Alabama was ahead of the curve for years. They didn't schedule for their fans. They scheduled to win championships. Now, okay, we know about Alabama. They played, Texas 2 years ago was the first time they'd been outside the state in a non-conference game in forever as far as a true road game. But they used to play pretty good neutral site games. They played 20th ranked Wisconsin, 20th ranked USC, 3rd ranked Florida State, 3rd ranked Louisville, 14th ranked Miami, 11th ranked Texas. So it's not like and so Lincoln Riley said that.
I can go back to 2007 and say, here's Alabama's non-conference opponent. FSU, Clemson, Va-Tech, Penn State. All right, at Duke in 2010, not great. At Penn State.
Yep.
Michigan, Va-Tech, West Virginia, Wisconsin, USC, Florida State, Louisville, Duke again, Miami, at Texas. I don't think they're running from anybody.
He was mentioned in the college football playoff time period, but you're right. The other thing is this: Lincoln Riley is 18-12 against ranked teams in his career. Nick Saban was 80-23.
Yeah,
ranked teams 80-23.
There's a lot of things that have popped out of Lincoln Riley in the last 15 months or so. Getting after a reporter, putting up his horrible cooking, and then, of course,
he said it was a bad camera angle.
No,
he really did.
He did say that. He did say it was
definitely
camera.
not that. It was definitely not the reason. Then you say this don't schedule for the fans. They do schedule. Look, the SEC is where they get to do that. But Nick Saban didn't run away from anybody. Nick Saban never got caught Either and look, if Alabama was trying to schedule a game and it didn't happen because Nick Saban said I don't want to do it, guess what? It never got out, right? So Lincoln Riley
I guarantee you he never said that.
Yeah, exactly. Lincoln Riley trying to get out of the LSU thing is the reason he's answering these questions because he tried to get out of the LSU game.
And even some think he left for USC out of Oklahoma, knowing the SEC was around the corner and didn't want to deal with that.
Just go win, man. Just go win, and you're going to have to beat good teams to get there. So
yeah, I mean, I'm an Oklahoma fan, so I really liked Lincoln Riley, and I've found myself liking him less and less the last couple of years. There's just something very crybaby about him. There's something that screams, give me the easiest path possible because I don't want to go down the hard road, whether that be leaving Oklahoma just as they're about to join the SEC, which, hey, look, man, I've been to Norman, Oklahoma. I think it's charming. I actually like Norman a lot. I think for a college town, it's great. But give me Southern California any day of the week if I'm making head coach at USC salary money, and give me Lincoln Riley's house. For sure. I can understand from that aspect of, quality of life, or you just have a dream to live out in L.A. That's understandable because that's a brand that's on par with Oklahoma. There are maybe a handful that are historically. USC is one of those. USC is one of the only ones that can go, here's our national championship case, here's our Heisman Trophy case, and actually, have an argument, if not a better argument. So him leaving is one thing, but then all the other stuff since, the LSU scheduling deal, his comments today, when Alabama clearly hasn't ran away from anybody. I just listed off who they have played. Here's who they're going to play: Wisconsin, FSU and West Virginia in 2 years in a non-con. West Virginia and Ohio State and Oklahoma State in 28, Oklahoma State and Notre Dame in 29, Notre Dame and Georgia Tech in 30. Now, those could all change, but those are two really good schools every year moving
like
forward.
That. Yeah,
and I don't want to prop up the evil empire, and we don't bow down to all things SEC, but somehow Lincoln Riley's managed to make them look like the good guy in this, because why is he sniping at them, especially when it's not even accurate? I don't get what he's going for here, other than to try to make him, in his weak attempts to have the easiest path possible, look better. Because if you don't say, well, Alabama was doing it too, then everybody's clearly going to look at you and go dude, you're kind of a wuss with this. You're backing out of games. You're trying to talk yourself out of having harder schedules. And yeah, I don't like the impressions I've gotten from him the last couple of years, and I think he's done himself no further favors at Big Ten Media Days with his comments, because, I really don't get this one or why even including Alabama in that conversation, because I don't feel like they've run from anything.
I always have thought USC, we got a break from Manny because he's also taken his family on vacation following the ACC Media Days, but I always thought USC played a hell of a schedule. They had Notre Dame as a non-conference game and a couple of others, but so there we are with Lincoln Riley. More to go to. Tennessee has unveiled plans to do a lot, not just with their stadium, but around the stadium. Also, there's a list that's out, the fastest players in college football entering the year. We'll have that and so much more. Manny is next on not just Miami, but the ACC with the newbies coming in with Cal, Stanford, and SMU. And this is 365 Sports. Stonewood Dental, your comfort is their priority. And I know that because I'm a customer. I'm a patient there. And one of the reasons I stayed away from dental work for a long, long time was because I knew in my heart that I wasn't probably taking care of my dental work the way I needed to. Oh, yeah, you wake up, you brush your teeth. Every once in a while, you floss your teeth, so, all that. But there's so much more to that. It's also what you're putting as far as sugar or something inside your mouth that is going to eventually decay your teeth. And I paid the price. Still have to be kind of careful about that. Still have some work to do, including making sure eventually my front bridge is there forever. Dr. Steve Childress is my dentist, and he put me through a game plan, just like a coach does with a team entering a game coming up during the weekend. Put me through a game plan of this is what I need to stop doing, lozenges, and a few other things that had too much sugar in them. And then on top of that, this is what I need to do moving forward, and I have. Every step of the way, and feel comfortable with it rather than, oh my God, I got to go get my teeth cleaned. What are they going to find? Dr. Steve Childress, 11 hygienists, 5 dentists, including Dr. Steve Childress, a great place to get your dental work done, and also with a game plan in Robinson, Texas.
Celebrate American quality and value during the Red, White, and Blue sales tag event at Richard Carr. Drive the best. Get professional-grade power and first-class interior in a GMC Sierra. Qualified buyers save $9,000 on all 2024 GMC Sierra SLT models in stock with qualified trade-in. Military and first responders save an extra $500. Plus, find Red, White, and Blue savings tags on vehicles all over the lot. Drive home American quality and value during our Red, White, and Blue sales tag event at Richard Carr GMC.
Richard Carr. They have the truck for you.
Let the journey to financial brilliance begin with Genco's limited time offers. Max your earnings with a Kasasa cash account and get paid monthly with a 4.25 APY. That's $425 annually. Then invest in a 13-month share certificate and earn 4.9 APY. That's $529. Earn cash and outshine the rest. At Genco, we offer you the sun and the moon. Kasasa based on average daily balance of $10,000. Certificate based on $10,000 investment. See GencoFCU.org for details. NCUA.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive is a premier elite life-changing experience where you can change your mind, body, and soul. Offering over 50 group exercise classes every week, including boot camp, bar, silver sneakers, and 10 cycling classes with morning and evening classes available. New state-of-the-art bikes that allow you to compete against yourself with a screen monitoring your speed, miles, resistance, and power. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, Alex Botch, and Nathan Roach, where you will be encouraged and motivated to grow, losing inches in weight the right way. There's a kids club included with your membership, plus sauna and tanning bed. 16 tennis courts, plus a beautiful stadium court, and longtime youth tennis pro Britt Coleman and assistant junior pro Kenna. Adult tennis lessons and clinics with Blake, and the commitment to pickleball with 8 courts and instructor Jody Thurman. Visit the website at wacotennis.com next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Let me tell you how much Manny Navarro loves this show and loves appearing on this show. From theathletic.com. What?
It's only the junior college name.
What did I say?
You just said Navarro. It's Navarro.
Navarro from theathletic.com. But see, I was a JUCO guy, so it's hard to get that out of my head. He is about to take his family to the Great Wolf Lodge in Charlotte after covering the ACC the last few days. So we'll let him get on with us and get the heck out of here. Manny, your article about the newbies with Cal, Stanford, and SMU entering the conference, which of those three fit the AC better if you wanted to put them in order?
Well, I think SMU right now is probably best positioned to win, especially coming off winning that conference championship last year. I think they've got, Red Lashley told me, I think they've got 40 people now between their personnel and recruiting department. They've nearly doubled their staff since he's arrived. SMU is in this to win and to really be competitive in what they hope is not a very long time. I think, with the way that they have worked the transfer portal on the offensive and defensive line, getting guys that were at Power 5 conferences in the offseason, they're trying to come in and win right away. Long term, I don't. Stanford is a national brand. I think if Troy Taylor could ever get it right, the way Jim Harbaugh did, and obviously some of the other coaches there at Stanford not too long ago. Maybe Stanford could reclaim that spot. But I think right now, if you were to say coming in year one, I would say SMU, Cal, and then Stanford at the end. But long term, I think SMU and Stanford are probably the best position to become something in the ACC.
Manny, Florida State made their statement last year. Mike Norvell, kind of announced them back on the scene the last couple of years, 10 wins and then 13 wins in the last couple of seasons. Clemson is not what they used to be, but I think their demise has been, prematurely written about by most people. Miami's on the way up. NC State's on the way up. Is there a true class of the ACC, or is this conference maybe closer at the top than people realize?
Yeah, I think right now it's tough to handicap it. I think, if you were to go right off of the old recruiting rankings, right, and say who's got the most talent, I think Florida State and Clemson would win the battle of old blue chips. But that's not the way the game's played anymore. Transfers play such a big factor in this. And so I think you got to respect Louisville and what they did last year in their first season. They hit the transfer portal hard again. And then certainly Miami, from a transfer portal perspective, getting Cam Ward and Damian Martinez and Sam Brown and some of the guys that they got on the defensive side, you're saying, well, maybe this is finally Mario Cristobal's breakthrough year. So I agree with you, and I got a ton of respect for Dave Doeren at NC State. He's been solidly consistent. He's been there a long time now. Grayson McCall was a really good quarterback at the G5 level. I think he's going to fit in perfectly with what they want to do on offense. So there's a lot of teams I think that could all sneak into that top spot, but those are the five that I would say are the true contenders going in at the start of the year.
Manny, there was a lot of noise heading into media days, just, social media noise and the like because of FSU and Clemson. What did you think of the way Jim Phillips sort of set the tone and the direction on day number one? And it seems like it's been just kind of a typical old media days. Has it been sort of business as normal despite all of that noise?
Yeah, I mean, obviously a lot of sideshow distractions when your two best programs are suing you, right, to get out of the league and trying to get out of that grant of rights. It can become a distraction. But I thought Jim Phillips did his job, really coming out strong from the get-go and sort of establishing that, hey, man, like, we're going to fight this. Like, we're going to keep this league together as best we can. And that's really what he did, by setting the tone with that. Now, is any of that going to matter, the public display? I don't know, but I think certainly what he was trying to convey to everyone was he's confident that they're going to win whatever legal cases are happening, the four of them in the three different states, and that the ACC is going to be able to stay together and succeed in the next few years. But we'll see. We got a long way from now until then. All
right, but obviously that's he was sharp. I thought he was really, really good on day one when he opened up the media days. Did you get that same impression, even if some people aren't going to like him, like whether it's Florida State or if it's Clemson, but that Jim Phillips was strong on day one?
Oh, there's no question. I think he's just trying to set the tone. Like, hey, man, we've been dealing with this now for several months. There's no question. He and I got to spend some time together talking privately. There's no doubt that he's confident that the ACC is going to win this thing and win the battle. And I guess he just wants the focus to be on the growth of the league and the overall health of the league. And that's what he wants to be on. He's tired of having to go to court and dealing with this nonsense to him. He's like, look, everybody agreed to sign this thing, right? There were a lot of people who couldn't wait to sign this grant of rights and wanted to be a part of this TV deal. And we have a good league. Let's get the focus back on football. And so I think he just wants that. I think that's really what his focus is. He wants us to be about the product on the field and not the circus off of it.
So two-part question on that. A lot of people did sign the TV deal, but it also feels like a terrible lack of foresight on the ACC's part to make the grant of rights that long when every other conference is going to go to market 3 times between the time they signed it and they'll get to do it again. And 2, is winning for the ACC just losing Florida State and Clemson?
No, I think you lose Florida State and Clemson, and you, depending on where they end up, you probably end up the 4th conference, right? If they end up going to the Big 12 for whatever reason, then certainly the Big 12 can make the argument that they're the better conference of the two. I think right now the ACC can claim that the other way. I mean, the Big 12 doesn't have two marquee national championship winning programs like Clemson and Florida State. So I think that matters, right? I mean, look, there's no doubt the SEC and Big Ten are on another level, and I think Jim would tell you that as well. But ultimately here, when you go to renegotiate the TV deal, and look, I don't know that any of those people that were making that decision way back when had the foresight to realize, hey, there's going to be these other leagues are going to sign 2 and 3 TV deals before the next one. But regardless, they're in the situation they're in, and if Florida State and Clemson stick around with the new system to basically reward you on postseason success and how your season goes, they can still make decent money and be competitive and be in that next tier of schools, even if they're not in the SEC and Big Ten, and not be in financial straits. But I look, in the long run, you need product, right? You need all these TV networks, Fox, ESPN. Everybody wants to broadcast games. They want to have a game on. Even if you go to the super conference of 32 teams in the Big Ten and the SEC, people are still going to want to watch Miami. They're still going to want to watch Florida State if they're not in one of those two conferences. They don't just disappear. So I think the ACC felt like at the time that they were making a good deal by keeping the league together. After Maryland left, and trying to just make this thing right. And unfortunately, the SEC and Big Ten just signed those 2 huge TV deals, and this is life now. You got to deal with it as it comes. And look, Jim Phillips didn't make this mistake. He was in the Big Ten when all this was going on. He just inherited this mess, and he's doing the best he can.
So, Manny, I've been following Cam Ward for a very long time, since he was an Incarnate Word, what seems like years and years ago now at this point. It's amazing to see him just grow and now have this opportunity at Miami. I've seen a little bit of his workout videos, that have been posted with Shador and Kyron Drones and all those guys. But what's been just sort of the early talk and returns on Cam Ward and how he's situating at Miami and just what they think and what, is expected coming up this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's certainly a lot of excitement. I know Mario Cristobal is not going to come out and proclaim, hey, I've got a playoff team or a team that's going to win the ACC. That's just not his style. But I know that there's a different feel around the program in South Florida because of Cam Ward's arrival. He is very much an old school Kane in terms of confidence and just feeling like, he's going to come in here and get the job done and raise other guys around him to maybe a level that they didn't think they were capable of, because he's got that confidence. You watch those videos and he's sitting there talking trash to these guys, and he doesn't care. And that's the way he is with his teammates. He wants to get the best out of them all the time. And, I don't want to sit here and criticize other guys that have played the quarterback position here at Miami the last few years, but let's face it, they haven't had a guy with that kind of an attitude, that kind of a swagger, and interest in terms of pushing his teammates to the next level. Cam Ward was a 0-star recruit coming out of high school. You mentioned Incarnate Word. He's got a chip on his shoulder. He's born with that thing. His parents put that thing on him. Playing these board games with them. I mean, he's a hell of a competitor. They had to stop playing these family board games on the eve of games because him and his dad and his mom would argue so much. They get fights, somebody would flip the game cards everywhere and get angry and storm off. That's the kind of guy Miami has leading their program. So there's a different feel to Miami this year. Mario Cristobal spent 3 years tweaking that roster. It is completely his roster now, offensive and defensive line. There's some monsters on both sides of the ball there. And so it feels like this thing is real. It feels like it's different than maybe the last 20 years has been for Miami.
Manny, how do you think that the league will kind of eat itself? Not eat itself, but going back to my earlier question about there's not really a class of the league. Do you think there's a team that can run through it, or do you think that every team is probably going to take a lump?
Well, I mean, I think every team can take a lump. I mean, I don't know that anybody is head and shoulders above everyone else in this class. This isn't a year like those old Clemson teams. Even in Florida State last year, you go back and you watch some of those Florida State games, they struggled at BC. Miami went in there with a true freshman quarterback in Tallahassee and had a chance in the fourth quarter. The Clemson teams that won national championships, the Florida State team that won a national championship with Jameis, they were running people off the field. I don't know if there's anybody like that right now. Could somebody sprout into that? Sure. I think if one of these new quarterbacks gets hot, I mean, if Grayson McCall comes in here and he looks like, a superstar, or Cam Ward or DJ Uiagalelei, maybe that changes things. But I think right now on paper, you've got 5 to 6 teams that could really win the conference, I think. But I don't know anybody's running away with it.
Manny, thank you. Appreciate your time. Enjoy the break with the family after the week battering ram at ACC Media Days in Charlotte. We appreciate your time, young man.
Good talking to you
Thank
guys.
you.
Talk soon.
Manny
Navarro
from theathletic.com. It's one of those, I guarantee you that each one of you have certain words or something that you always say it the opposite. Like Craig says either, and I say either. That's fine. People do that. Apples,
there's a whole
potatoes,
song about that.
Right. But
you want me to do it? I'll do it right now.
Navarro is what I used to call Navarro College. Then I started saying that. So I said it 1,000 times.
You also, I understand it because you used to do TJC and Navarro and all those colleges all the time.
Yes.
So it's in your head of Navarro, touchdown Navarro.
Yes.
What a 3-pointer for Navarro.
Yep.
This is a great rally for Navarro. But yes, everywhere else it's Navarro.
I think we all have a name or a phrase or a word that we always pronounce. We see it and we panic.
Also, one of the things that makes Texas unique is they will take words that everybody else says one way and then go, no.
Yeah, that's right. Greg, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, no, I get that, but we just corrected you 10 minutes before that.
Okay, I am not on
just corrected
seconds before.
I need to go get tested.
So I totally get it, but I'm just saying, I get all that, but we had just sent you a reminder. So
remember, and we got a break to come back with our next guest. I go downstairs at the condo from my office to go get something out of downstairs. And I come back with 2 things that are not what I went downstairs to get. That is me. I admit it. And I'm a scientific equation that probably cannot be solved.
I don't think there's any doubts about that. But, yeah, I mean, I get it. I just, want to make sure we get Manny's name right because we have him on so regularly, and good to have him. Good to have him speak a little bit on the, the realignment topic as far as the ACC having to address that. And, man, say what you want. If you didn't think Jim Phillips did a good job, I haven't heard jack squat about this topic since he spoke at the start of Media Days.
You kind of put an end to it.
So,
at least initially.
I mean, there's going to be more talk about it, but 3 days have passed, and I've heard, not a peep. Now, I'm sure if I went in the same circles that have been talking about it the entire time, that's still ongoing. But as far as, actual beef to the story from the ACC side of things, he stomped it out right at the outset. I also think that it's another league that's so big that you can't go through the entire thing with a single segment unless you have an hour set aside for a single guest. Because I think Malik Murphy now being at Duke with Manny Diaz is interesting. Mm-hmm. And Mike Elko left him in a really good place where he had Duke football actually being interesting and being competitive. And so obviously he takes the A&M job, but that's a team where I think that you could look and see some fun things happen potentially if Malik Murphy turns out to be the kind of talent that Texas thought he was and many others did. NC State with Grayson Waller, as he mentioned. Va-Tech with Kyron Drones. I mean, we saw him here in Waco for a couple years and could never crack through the starting job, but now had a big year last year and comes back for the Hokies and with some expectations. So, I think there's some schools in the ACC that are really interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing how that league, plays out. And then you add in the SMUs of the world, and, there's a whole crapshoot there.
No, I completely agree. And Kyron, his birthday, I think, was yesterday. I saw his dad put that up on his Twitter page as a coach down in the Houston area. We're now joined by Chapel Fowler. When we reached out to Alexis Cuban earlier today, who used to cover Clemson, now covers Louisville, she said, go to Chapel. He's with the State News. He joins us. He covers Clemson, and he joins Craig and Paul David Smoke on 365 Sports. Chapel, thanks for your time. Was there anything that Dabo said this week that maybe 1 or 2 things in particular that jumped out best for you?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks, guys, for having me. I'll try to fill in the big shoes that Alexis has there. She's awesome, and I appreciate her passing that along. I think, Clemson hasn't been in the playoff in 3 years, but if you look at the media crowd around Dabo, anywhere he went this week, it would tell you otherwise. He is still the talk of the league. He's the face of the league. What he says, people listen to. I'd say this week a few things. More than anything else, he didn't make any major news, which he's sometimes prone to do just whenever he opens his mouth, because once he gets going. It's the way he is, for better or for worse. Sometimes he will keep going, and if he believes in something, he's going to say it ad nauseum. A lot of talk this week about his portal stance, which kind of been deliberated over the last few months, and how he's so committed to the guys on his roster, and Clemson doesn't lose a lot of guys, so they don't feel the need to bring in a lot of guys. And, I think that stance will be tested a little bit more if they have another year this year where they're maybe below those standards where, one Keon Coleman-esque pickup like FSU made last year is going to make the difference. That stance is going to be criticized even more. He's also a former walk-on himself, so he had a lot to say about the new roster limit changes with the House settlement about where you can have more scholarship players, but everybody has to be on scholarship on your roster. You can't have any walk-ons. And he was kind of talking about his sadness about losing that and how helpful those players have been to Clemson. But pretty muted kickoff appearance for the most part, at least by his pretty lofty standards.
Well, I would think, some of those players are still going to be walk-on type players. They're just going to be on scholarship now. But Chappell, I'm going to ask you this. I've been a critic of the way he's not necessarily approached it, but the way that he has talked about the portal and why he doesn't need it, because he's the only one that's allowed to use it that doesn't. And here's my thing. Okay, you don't want to go get guys that are, searching for NIL, fine. You don't want to, build a roster that way like Deion Sanders? Absolutely not. You're one of the best recruiters in the country. Your high school, that's impeccable. It's beyond reproach. But what about guys that wanted to go to Clemson, but then kind of got talked into going somewhere else, and then after their freshman year would like to go back to Clemson? So once you tell Dabo no, that's it forever, that's where it kind of sticks me, and I get a little confused.
Yeah, no, I think you hit up the nail on the head there. That's kind of my exact opinion on it. In the same way that you can steer clear of the messy parts or the illicit, illegal parts of high school recruiting with inducements and such, there's still going to be a handful of guys, good 5-star recruits, prominent players that want to come play for Clemson, want to come play for Dabo because of what they've built, what they've established with him kind of leading that charge. It's the same way for the portal. Now, it might be a little bit different because obviously those guys transferring are on shorter timelines. They're usually transferring because they didn't get playing time somewhere else, so they want to get to a more prominent school quickly and play immediately. So I understand, again, what he's saying about, a lot of these guys wouldn't consider us. But like you said, that brand, that Tiger Paw, it's national. There's people who care about it, want to play there, have watched them to play on TV. And to kind of just initially handicap yourself from the start a little bit with that, I don't think is a good strategy. Just speaking personally, I don't think it's a good strategy. They did a lot with offensive line in the portal, more than they had. He was very direct in saying something I've never heard him say before, like in a pre-Gator Bowl press conference, hey, we are going to look in the portal for offensive linemen. I've never heard him say anything like that. So they're at least inching a little bit closer to that point, but the way that other schools in this conference have gone all in and helped themselves and added players at key positions, even if it's just one or two guys that really help you get over the hump or win one extra game, they really haven't done that yet. They've signed 2 backup quarterbacks from the portal since the portal became the portal unlimited like it is since, I think, 2021. That's it. So it's a very noticeable strategy, and I think it becomes even more noticeable and fair game to be criticized with what they've done over these last few years, which has been good but not great.
Chappell, you bring up the quarterbacks. What's the talk around Cade Klubnik and just what's expected of him, how he can improve, and just sort of his mentality heading into this season after what was a rocky year a year ago?
Yeah, well, he's got a mini mullet. He's got longer hair, so take that as a good sign or a bad sign.
Yeah.
As a guy who's grown out of a little bit in recent years, I'm like, yeah, sure, go for it. He seemed relaxed today. I think he's taken that year in stride. Last year, I will say, one like kind of media inside the business note. Clemson used to make its offensive coordinator available twice a week. Once a week during the week, and then after every single game. They cut that down to like 4 total midweek press conferences this year, or last year, with Garrett Riley. So what that meant was basically every single week that Clemson was struggling on offense, the guy that was going to answer for that outside of the head coach, obviously Dabo would talk about it, but it was going to be Cade. So, he set up there every week. He never skipped a presser. He answered all our questions. He kept pushing. He ran around a lot, somehow never got hurt. I think he had the most total combined rushes and pass attempts at the ACC last year by a mile. So, there's some stuff there. There's some talent there. If you watch a game, you'll see a few throws that make you go, oh my gosh. But it is those like mind-numbing killer turnovers, or fumble in the worst possible position, or throw a pick six when you really, really can't do it, or just an interception that's straight into the defender's hands. That type of stuff is still popping up a little too much for him, at least for right now. I think they all know that's what needs to change. And like turnover luck is huge, right? If you throw 5 fewer of those silly passes, maybe that's 2 fewer pick sixes, and you win 2 more games because of it. If that's the single play in a single game that defines stuff. So it's all there for him, and that there's a reason they've kind of hitched their wagons to him, because they know that talent's there. I think anybody who watches Clemson play would agree, but I still haven't seen it consistently yet. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but that Georgia game week 1 is about the easiest way to figure out if all these strides we've heard about are accurate with him.
How much, or will it all, the lawsuits have a distraction on Clemson football?
I don't think too much, and I think that comes from the top down. Dabo for years now, because realignment, it feels like we come to this event in Charlotte, ACC kickoff every summer, and just that's looming over everybody's heads all the time. He's very intent on, that's my president's job, that's my athletic director's job. I'm just here to play the game. You can say that and still read up on stuff and speculate and be curious. But I think for the players themselves, especially the way last year went, there's plenty of internal motivation. And, there's probably some guys on that roster that are like, okay, cool, I'd love to play in the SEC someday. But I think the message from the top down for them, from their coaches, is like, hey, this may be flashy, but we can't focus on this. So I'm sure inevitably there's a little distraction, but especially with stuff kind of slowing down. Recently, there was some reporting recently on a national level that also tracks with what I've heard and kind of read locally, that Clemson and Florida State aren't going to make any movement before this upcoming deadline in August. There's a long Supreme Court appeal-filled battle ahead for both those schools. So I think everybody's just about ready to lace up. And if anything, maybe it's a helpful distraction from the lawsuit stuff to just get back into that instead.
Okay, they did not get any linemen in the portal, obviously, because they didn't get anybody from the portal. And wide receiver, they lost Bo Collins, and he was more of a reliable he wasn't a superstar. He's on his way to Notre Dame by any stretch. He's not Keon Coleman. He's not DeAndre Hopkins or anything. But do they feel okay about those positions enough? Or is that where kind of the nerve-wracking part of it is, because there's a lot of unproven youth there?
Yeah, I think that's a position where if they hadn't have had the level of recruiting success they had just this year at wide receiver, they probably would have gone after someone a little bit more substantially. At least that's my guess. They got Bryant Wesco from Midlothian down there in Texas, who was a 5-star guy up until the final ratings tweak. I think he's a 4-star now. Another 5-star coming in from Florida, TJ Moore. And they have really talked those guys up as bringing a level of depth and eventually some explosive playmaking that they've lacked, like you mentioned. Think back to the Hopkins and T. Higgins and Mike Williams and all those guys that made those big, flashy plays. Clemson's had a lot of recruits come in that have had similar rankings in terms of stars and stuff. Your 4-star guys, high 4-star, 5-star guys. But a lot of those guys haven't panned out. And that's where the frustration comes in, the development frustration. Why are we getting all these guys if we're not going to develop them? Do we need to go to the portal instead, like you said, and get someone who's maybe a little bit more seasoned or is a proven wide receiver instead of just betting on high school talent? They feel good about Moore and Wesco, but I think that's definitely a position that hurt them the last few years when they've been good but not great. And it's definitely a big question mark for me personally as well going into this year.
So is it with Miami better? Obviously, Mac Brown in North Carolina always tantalize what Virginia Tech or whoever. Is it still Florida State and Clemson's conference to win or lose?
I think so. I think if I had to make a pick for the league title game right now, I would say those two. I think the no division format helps with that. It used to be for years the winner of the Florida State Clemson game within the ACC's Atlantic Division was kind of stamped for the conference title game, for better or for worse, because that division was traditionally pretty weak when it existed, and it was one of those two schools winning it every year pretty much. Now, there's a little bit more variance. Nobody loses one game and is eliminated from contention. So I think, the preseason media vote when it comes out next week will indicate Clemson for State still on top. If you look at anything like betting odds or ESPN's FPI or stuff like that. It's still them. But it certainly is a lot more wide open than it's been in past years between, Florida State losing so many guys, Travis included, and DJ Uiagalelei coming in there from Clemson via Oregon State, who's been good again, but not great. Clemson's issues, and then if those are the two teams up top, that are talented but still flawed or maybe lacking a few things, it makes it really easy for a school like you mentioned, a Tech or UNC, even at NC State. I think they're going to be really good this year. Good transfer quarterback, good group of veterans and in-state guys that they've really developed well. It makes it a lot easier for one of those schools to swoop in and take that second spot, maybe even like you said, with one or two losses now, instead of having to be perfectly undefeated or something to get there to that title game.
Chappell, great stuff. We'll have you on again anytime we have something with Clemson, so I'm sure we'll have you on a handful of times during football season. Enjoy whatever break you have left before practices begin. Thanks for your time, and have a great week.
All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you having me.
Chappell Fowler, the State News, covers Clemson. When he started talking, I thought it was Taylor McCarg. Sounded just like him.
Yeah, he does, but yeah.
Really did, but appreciate him. Matt Baker from the Tampa Bay Times is coming up next. Of course, he covers the ACC, Florida State, but also USF and Florida, among others. He will join us also in the next hour.
Paul really wants Dabo to fail. Like, he's hoping that this is the down. Dabo didn't win 10 games for the first time since 2010 last year. He only won 9.
And it tasted better. I'll just say, like, it wasn't that much better. Like, I've had to eat this crappy meal for a long time, and then it was all of a sudden it's like, oh.
No, but I do think there's
saffron in this?
Yeah, I do think there's a bit of, not just him, but I think with just fans in general, of like, yeah, you can criticize his use of the portal, but I think people are taking it like to hope as much as anything that it's like the beginning of his downward spiral, and that this will crater everything that he's built for the last 10 plus years.
He is, look, you take it away, what he's shown is not using it. He's still one of the top 3 high school recruiters and developers of talent, period. The where he's falling behind is just not getting, and I don't think he needs to go full Dion, but he could go get Keon Coleman. I mean, that like,
he definitely doesn't need to go Dion.
Yeah,
no,
he doesn't need to go Dion, but he needs to get that dude on each side of the ball. If he took 3 transfers a year, he probably wouldn't have this problem. He really wouldn't. Nobody would criticize.
I think what he's doing is commendable.
Even though
it may not be the right thing to do, but I think it's commendable that they do recruit incredibly well. But if they could pick up a nugget or two, a diamond or 2 for each side of the ball, that would make a difference.
I think
they still want to do it right now.
Yeah, I think there's a middle ground there, and he might be forced to do that sooner rather than later. If they go 9-4 again, then for them that actually would be like, oh shoot, that's 2 years in a row of less than 10 wins. Even if it's 9, like who are those losses to? I'm sure would matter. But yeah, I think at the same time though, commendable is a really good word for it because he's doing it differently. And if it doesn't work out, fine. But here's a guy who got 2 national championships. He's played for more than 2.
And it was recently,
and it was in the last decade. And so they're not that far off. And all he has to really do, if it really is that much pressure, is just pivot, which should be easy because Clemson fans sounds as though they'll line his pockets very quickly. Yeah. But what it also does is it gives you a sense of not bad security, but security on that roster of you're not like a lot of other rosters in America where you're like, man, if I don't perform, I'm out of here. Like, or I'm getting pushed out for the trend. Like his guys can actually grow like you used to. And it is more of your old way of college football in some cases, as opposed to, all right, 10 new guys need to come in and replace these guys. He's building and evolving, but we'll see if it works or not. He's definitely in the crosshairs.
In 2022, in September of 2022, signed a 10-year, $115 million contract through 2031. He's not going anywhere. If he goes, it'll be on Dabo Swinney's terms. And I don't think he will because the Alabama job opened. That was always something. I never thought he would go there, even though there was a connection, because Kalen DeBoer is the head coach at Alabama. He is how many programs in America would like to have Clemson's last 5 or 6 years?
Sure. But now also Clemson fans are accustomed to a certain type of fine wine, and you can't give them the cheap gas station stuff anymore,
They and Georgia used to be similar.
Very similar.
They won national titles like within a year of each other in the
80s.
80s, 80, 81, whatever, and then went through a long stretch where they were good. They were at times really good, but they could not crack through. And then all of a sudden, Clemson wins a couple, Georgia's won a couple, And they've kind of gotten out of that funk. And when I say that, funk during those 30 years or 40 years for a lot of people would have been pretty successful.
Well, I think they were always kind of hovering around the elite level of teams that have won a national, but now like they both firmly placed themselves in that.
Remember the term Clemsoning, yeah.
But they both firmly placed themselves like, no, they're in the top level.
No question, no question. Matt Baker's coming up next.
Yeah, where I will, I think it is commendable what he's doing, but commendable only goes so far. If the thing quits working, then it's no longer commendable, it's stubborn.
But we know it's not working.
Well, it's not giving them the results they...
It's only been available for 3 years.
If they only win 9 again and they're losing to, like, Duke or, then I think even though it's still 9, like, that's not what...
No.
So I think that's where you look at it and you go, okay, well, there is some slippage. It's just a matter of, like, is this going to continue to slip or is this just an aberration? And I think that's what everybody's eager to find out.
We'll find out right off the top when they play Georgia.
Yeah.
When we come back, Matt Baker... He covered ACC Media Days. He also covered the American Athletic Conference. He has comments from Alex Golish and also an update on USF when it comes to their facilities. We brought that up a couple of days ago. He's next. This is 365 Sports. TexasBeefHouse.com. Their next auction, their next live online auction is August the 7th and 8th. That's not next week, but the week after that. All steaks are sold through the auctions through a company called Bid on Beef. So go to TexasBeefHouse.com. When you open up the homepage, it'll tell you about the next auction, give you the dates, the 7th and 8th, and then also give you a link to go to Bid on Beef. And when you go to Bid on Beef, you can also see what they have, which is going to be just incredible. They have unbelievable what they sell are the steaks that everybody would want. For example, premium quality Angus and Wagyu beef for sale online. When you go to a store to go buy a couple of ribeyes or maybe porterhouse, T-bone, New York strip, there's a price on that package, whether it's one steak or a pack of 2 or 4. There's a price. That's what you have to pay. You can't go negotiate that. With online auctions, TexasBeefHouse.com and Bid on Beef, you can get the steak at the price you want. Yeah, there's going to be people that want to bid against you that can up the price, but you can stop. That's all I'm going to go and walk away. Well marbled, tender cut of beef, and there's nowhere better to get that beef than straight from the ranch, and that's what you get from TexasBeefHouse.com. I've been to the ranch. I've seen the Angus cattle. It's just a spectacular place. So go August the 7th and 8th. New online auction. I participated in the one a couple of weeks ago and learned a little bit from that. I want some tomahawk ribeyes from them, Wagyu style. Go to TexasBeefHouse.com. Go to Bid on Beef, August the 7th and 8th. It is exhilarating to be a part of it and buy the steaks how much you want to buy it for at TexasBeefHouse.com.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Let the journey to financial brilliance begin with Genco's limited time offers. Max your earnings with a Kasasa cash account and get paid monthly with a 4.25 APY. That's $425 annually. Then invest in a 13-month share certificate and earn 4.9 APY. That's $529. Earn cash and outshine the rest. At Genco, we offer you the sun and the moon. Kasasa based on average daily balance of $10,000. Certificate based on $10,000 investment. See GencoFCU.org for details. NCUA.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive in North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive in North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
Want to send a message to the show? Jump in the Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue chat room.
Let me tell you something. We have great guests. We've already had a couple on today. We have more to come. But I watched Matt Baker's timeline, and not just over the last few months with all of the uneasiness with the ACC and FSU and Clemson, et cetera, but I watched his coverage, and he's joining us now from the Tampa Bay Times. He's damn good at what he does. He hustles. He does a great job. He never goes over the edge with just how he feels maybe, but also reporting the story. Matt, thanks for your time, and I mean that, and I even told you that earlier in the week. What were your thoughts about, let's go to ACC Media Days, how Jim Phillips handled the first day? Because it seems like after he spoke, there just wasn't much said anymore about drama, at least not this week.
Well, thanks for having me on it, and thanks for the kind words. Yeah, you're right. Jim Phillips sounded a little bit different to me than he has in the past. Defensive, I don't know if that's the right word. I don't know if offensive is the right word, but maybe a little bit more fiery, and I understand why. I mean, the perception right now of the ACC is not, and it's not great, right? You know, their 2 biggest brands, or 2 of the biggest brands, have been yelling about trying to leave, and there's lawsuits, and there's all this stuff, and some of it doesn't matter, right? Judges eventually are going to weigh in on whatever they think. At some point, there's probably going to be a number between 0 and 572 million where Florida State and Clemson can get out and do their own thing. But in the meantime, perception does matter. Look at what happened with the Pac-12 and the way that disappeared, because it's one of the things like with a bank, right? If everybody thinks the bank is running out of money and everyone goes and takes their money, then the bank runs out of money. It's almost one of those things. So I think it was important for Jim Phillips, the ACC commissioner, to, be as I guess, passionate as he was, and a little bit out of his character. But to your other point, yeah, there didn't seem to be a lot of drama, and honestly, I didn't expect a lot. Florida State, Mike Norvell and Dabo Swinney at Clemson, this decision with the lawsuits and where they're going to go, Big 10, SEC, Big 12, that's way above their pay grade, and it's a very big pay grade. Don't get me wrong, but those decisions are made by the presidents and the trustees and what have you, not the football coaches. So, I'm sure Mike and Dabo have some thoughts about where they'd like to be, but like this time of year, I'm also pretty sure what they're thinking about is, okay, how are we going to shore up our third down defense this year, and how are we going to be better in the red zone so we don't kick as many field goals?
By the way, to follow up on Smokey's open for Matt, you know how I know Matt is one of the best sports writers in Florida, in particular, is that every fan base thinks that he hates them.
That is correct.
Yeah, there's a section of every fan base, whether it's USF, UCF, Florida State, Florida, Miami, FAU. Like, well, every time Matt Baker writes about us, it's negative. Which means he's doing his job because. Well, yeah, go ahead.
Right, and the important thing here is that you and I, we know the truth of which fan base that I actually hate, of which school that I actually hate, and which rival I love the most. You and I know that truth. No need to repeat it. If you know, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt, when it comes to the court cases and everything going on, I think it was nice to hear once again, even though it was said back in June, that none of this is happening this year. So it puts the Florida State and Clemson will be in the Big 12 on July 1st of next year completely to rest. And based on what Jim Phillips said, this is going to be a much longer haul than anything else, right?
Yes, I think so. I'm going to put some conference realignment caveats here. I know what's been reported, and I do not think that anything will happen in the next couple of weeks before, I think it's August 15th is when FSU and Clemson would have to say they're leaving for them to be able to be out before the 2025 season. But I want to give my standard caveat. When it comes to conference realignment, only assist deals in absolute. Yeah. Nothing is certain. If I ever say anything is certain or going to happen, slap me upside the head, because I should not be doing that. So there's always a tiny bit of wiggle room, even though I would say with 99% certainty nothing has happened here in the next couple of weeks. Now, to the actual meat of what you were talking about. This is going to go on for potentially a while. I mean, at least in the court cases. I looked a while ago at the comps for times when schools and conferences sued each other, and usually they take about 18 months to resolve themselves. And this one, honestly, could take longer. I don't think the ACC, I don't know if they have an incentive to try to settle earlier. At least at the current moment, they don't, because the contract they think is pretty rock solid. And they can keep going. They've got till 2036 potentially. There's no incentive for them to try to let Florida State or Clemson out early, unless Florida State and Clemson are paying a lot of money. So that's the one thing. And then just as far as the timeline, what I've said for a while, and if I had to put a date on it, again, if I had to put a date on it, watch kind of January or February. According to Florida State, ESPN has the option then to extend the ACC from, I think it's 27 through 36, if I've got my numbers right. And right now, that whole thing is still being discussed. It's still being finalized. And at January, February is the deadline. That's the date that I would watch, where typically settlements happen in any civil case when there's a deadline, when there's a ticking time bomb. That, to me, is the most realistic ticking time bomb that I'm aware of. So that's a more realistic date that I would watch.
When it comes to nuts and bolts on the field this year, where do you kind of grade the ACC teams, especially, Florida State, Clemson, Miami, probably the top three, but do you think there's other ones that can maybe bust into that top three?
North Carolina State's interesting because eventually they're going to break out of that between 8 and 9 win thing. Eventually they're going to go one way or the other. They got Grayson McCall out of Coastal Carolina, who I loved him at Coastal. The COVID year, he was about as fun to watch as any player in the country. Can he kind of rekindle that magic with the Wolfpack? I don't know. But as we're kind of looking at it, that's one option outside the top three that really intrigues me. And Virginia Tech is the other one. I'm not entirely sold on what Pry has been doing. I think he's upgraded the roster and made some kind of incremental gains. But people around the league think that the Hokies are maybe getting closer to where they should be. So that's another program that I've got that, maybe they can break into that top three as well.
Matt, this is non-ACC related, but you do write a lot about USF and just, looping that in with conference realignment for the teams that don't have lifeboats. They're scrambling, hoping that there will be one or two left over, right? Some invites after this last go-round. But can you just kind of speak to USF? And it just seems like this last year or so, they've really made a concerted effort to push facilities forward and to try and best position themselves. Would that be accurate?
That is 100% accurate. I have they've been pushing for an on-campus stadium. They've been talking about it since before they actually started classes at USF. That's not an exaggeration. That's an actual fact. So it's been going on for a very, very long time. And now they're at a point where in October they plan to break ground on it. And I feel very confident it's going to happen. I don't know that I would have said that a year ago, and I certainly don't know that I would have said that 2 years ago. But they're doing everything they can to make that stadium and the football operations center that goes with it, to make that a reality. I've kind of evolved my thinking on, is it necessary? To some degree it is, but I would be worried about whether the lifeboats have all left and if there's any coming back from it, But USF thinks if we're going to have a shot at making it to the Power 4, 3, 2, whatever it's going to be in the future, we got to go now. And they're putting $340 million plus interest into this. They've got, I think, a really sharp coach in Alex Golesh. We had a 7-6 first season, which was fine, all things considered. We'll see if they can get that to 9 or 10 this year, and maybe make a run at a conference title this year or next. But they're starting to do the things that they should have done a while ago, frankly, to at least make themselves relevant on the national scale at the G5 level, and then maybe have a chance to where if things go right, kind of like UCF, where UCF kind of caught lightning in a bottle, maybe the Bulls can do that too.
I always, and I stick to this because we covered that time period when the Big 12 was going to lose Texas and Oklahoma, and they reacted that if USF and Memphis had been where they might be now, I don't know about Memphis, they still have some work to do, but if USF would have been where they're about to be 3 or 4 years ago, it would have been interesting to see what the Big 12 would have done.
No question, because USF has a lot of things going for it. We have to remember that realignment is not done, like I said earlier, it's not the football coaches who decide it, it's not the athletic directors, it's the presidents and the trustees. So when you're looking at USF, it's one of the, it's a top-tier research institution. They're in the AAU, which is a prestigious kind of top-tier group of schools that's supposedly a more or less prerequisite to joining the Big Ten. Florida State's not in that, by the way. Miami is. So they've got the academic chops, I think, where they could be in a major conference. Obviously, Tampa is a huge market, top 20. It's growing. Every time I drive by somewhere, it looks like there's a new apartment complex or shopping center or something going up. So there's a lot of stuff to like about it. And in 10, 20 years, you look at the alumni that's cranking out, how big it is and all that stuff. USF could be very, very good and relevant. The problem is that they didn't do a lot of the things that they should have done years ago, and that's putting them behind. Because, you're exactly right. If things had broken differently, they had made the right hire, or, go back to I think it was a 2017 UCF-USF game where it went down to the wire and they lost on a kickoff return for a touchdown. You change that outcome, things could be very, very different. But, ifs and buts and what have you, and USF is where they are now, and they're playing catch-up, trying not to get left behind.
Matt, what do you put the likelihood on Billy Napier still occupying his office in 2025?
That's a great question. I'm going to give you a really bad answer, and I'm going to say, you know what? I'll say 55%. I was going to go 50-50, but I'll go 55. I say that because for a couple of reasons. One is Billy is well-liked in the building, and I think that matters. It mattered with Will Muschamp getting a fourth season, and I think it can matter with Billy. Two, everyone knows how tough the schedule is. So if the team looks better this year, and I think it will, even if that doesn't show up in the standings, if it doesn't show up on the scoreboards, I think the power brokers will understand that a little bit, especially because he made a little bit of noise with the recruiting class that he got. And the other thing here, and I just don't have a read on this, but Florida's president announced last week that he was stepping down. Unfortunately, his wife is in poor health, and obviously you hope for the best for Ben Sass and his family. That's more important than even college football. But as it relates to our conversation, a new president, right now it's going to be an interim president. I don't know for how long. You would think the way this normally goes is the president would fire the athletic director, who would then hire a new one, and that guy would fire the coach and hire a new one. But if there's an interim president, if there's a leadership vacuum there at a school like Florida, I don't have a good read yet on what that might mean. So that's just a complete wild card that we'll see if anything's resolved here in the next couple of months. If they were to lose to UCF or get their tails beat by Georgia or Texas or something, but that's just something I don't have my head wrapped around yet, and I don't know that anybody can. But it's just something to kind of monitor and keep in mind.
Matt, UCF, you brought them up. We'd be remiss to not mention, the school in the Big 12 that we've talked about so much over these last couple of years. But obviously, some lessons learned, I would think, in year number one across all sports. But how do you feel about just the way they've, entered and now try to pivot towards year two and building on this thing?
I think they're going to be better. I think it was, it's going to be growing pains for almost everybody that moves up from a mid-major to a major conference like the Knights did. But I think they've gotten better along the line. I think they've gotten more depth. They've been recruiting at a higher level the last couple of years, and that's going to allow some of their earlier classes to kind of cycle out and boost the talent level. But the big thing is KJ Jefferson. I saw him in person against the Gators in Gainesville. His team wasn't particularly talented, I don't think. New offensive coordinator that week, and he found a way to win in the swamp. He's a big dude. He can run. He can throw. And honestly, when you put him in a Gus Malzahn offense, I'm not going to say he's Cam Newton. Cam's one of the best couple players of my lifetime. Nope, I'm not saying. However, there are some Cam Newton-like qualities to KJ Jefferson's game. And Gus Malzahn obviously did a really good job with Cam. If he can do, even half of that, 30% of that with KJ Jefferson, UCF's going to be in a position where I have no idea who's going to win the Big 12. It's a complete jumble to me, more or less. But I could, if things work out with KJ, I could see UCF, in the top, certainly the top half and maybe top 3, 4, 5.
All right, taking Miami, Florida, Florida State, UCF, and USF, and I know there's a couple of others. Put them in order of who's better.
Florida State, Miami, Florida barely ahead of UCF, and then USF.
See,
I don't.
There you go.
Yeah,
You hate everybody. You absolutely hate them all.
Thank you for making me say it. I appreciate
that. That might seem initially like a pretty simple thing, but you don't know. I mean, who knows? Thanks for your time, Matt. I hope you get a break before I know practices start next week. Craig, did you want anything else from Matt?
No, just keep up the good work, Matt. Enjoy reading your stuff, man.
I do.
All right. Appreciate it.
Matt,
thanks, guys.
Matt Baker, Tampa Bay Times, with us on many things ACC, even USF and even UCF, with the KJ Jefferson note, too.
Yeah, if Matt was, covering the election, the Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, the Green Party, everybody would be like, why does he hate us so much? It's he's just writing the news, man.
No, it's weird how people don't like just actual news, and if it's not, got their favorite flavor sprinkled all over it, they just reject it like it's poison or something. It's really bizarre, and I think it's really a sad state of affairs, honestly, that you have to have basically your prescribed filtered news that you want to hear and everything else is bupkis. I think that's scary, but Matt does make a lot of, I don't want to say enemies, but he doesn't sugarcoat anything, and he doesn't lean a certain way. And so, at any given point, UCF could be pissed at him, or it's Miami or whatever. But I think that's just because he does a straightforward, good job. And he's been one to definitely follow throughout the entire ACC lawsuit ordeal. I mean, if you just want to cut through the noise and just get to all right, what actually happened today? All right, Matt Baker's where to go to just know what actually happened and whether it's a big deal, whether it matters, and whether it's a sign that anything's coming close to an end. And clearly, like he said, with realignment, you never say never, but the whole imminent and the dams breaking in the month of August, that doesn't appear to be the case, although we have a whole month left. But that's interesting to hear from him.
No, I agree. And Matt just tells it like it is. He has some opinions about it, but he reports the news, and sometimes these days people don't want to know that. They don't want to know. They just want to know please tell them what you want to hear. Jaden Nunn, Baylor senior guard, joins us on 365 Sports. And, Jaden, I couldn't help but I saw the videos. Scott Drew leading you guys into the new the new part of the facility that was not open during the season. Can you try to explain all of the bells and the glitz and the glamour and all of that you now have for Baylor men's basketball?
It's just, first off, it's just a blessing, from God, just to be able just to be in that type of environment, with just, being able just to get new things and new arenas and new weight room and everything is just a blessing. So just want to thank God first. But after being in there, this past week or this ongoing week, I ain't gonna lie, it's crazy. It's nice. So I just want to let the fans know, whenever they do or they come back in there, they get a chance to it. It's even better than it was before. So yeah, it's crazy.
Jaden, you guys last year had to be weird, working out at one place and then going to play at another one. And then especially since you guys got in there, you were maybe the, 10th to 25th people in there in the building at all that weren't, working on it. How is it just as you head into the getting the season started and the real meat and potatoes of off-season workouts to be able to simplify all that?
It just feels better that, you don't got to go from building to building. Everything is just in one location, and everything is finally just finished. I've been waiting just to see, for this day to come, just to see how everything will just turn out, how everything will look and stuff. I was just I got tired of just driving from Farrell to Foster, for practices sometimes, during the season and stuff. So I'm just grateful to have everything in just one vicinity. So, yeah, just feel grateful just for these opportunities.
So, obviously, there's the locker room, but there's also the strength and conditioning, and there's, I'm sure, a lot more. Kind of explain all of what you saw yesterday and what is included that was outside of just being able to play games inside the Foster Pavilion.
Yeah. What been included, like the nutrition part is better. We're being able to get eat and do a lot of more stuff, and we getting post meals, breakfast and stuff like that. It's hard for me to leave the locker room sometimes. I can't lie. I shower. I do everything there. I shower there. They got speakers. I listen to my music there. Everything. And then now we got ping pong table in there and a pool table. So like the guys today after practice, we didn't leave. Practice was over around 2:30. We ain't leave till about like an hour or 30 minutes later. Like, we all in there just hanging around, playing pool, playing ping pong, just spending time with each other. So I feel like that locker room is just a great time, a great thing for us to just help, get closer and bond as a team as well. So,
this segment with Jaden Nunn is brought to you by Richard Carr Buick GMC Motors, people you can count on.
Jaden, this roster, and you guys are just now going to be getting all together here soon. Looks scary as all get out. How antsy are you to I mean, I know practice stinks most of the time compared to the games, but practice seems like it's going to be a lot of fun with, all the guys you have coming in, from Jeremy Roach to VJ Edgecombe to, I can list all of them, but it looks like you guys are going to be exciting.
Yeah, it's fun. Right now, we just practicing against each other, but, I just can't. I mean, practice, it's been very competitive. I feel like it's just getting everybody better, and we're only going to get better from here. So I just can't wait to see how we are when we play another team, because I know, like, when we practice so much and, the season's still, like, a little while ahead, I don't want to I'm just excited just to see how we look compared to another team. So, yeah, I'm just ready to play somebody else.
What were some of the other things the other player, your teammates, said about when they walked into the new digs? Not the arena, because we've seen that because you played games there starting in January. But what were some of the things that maybe – because there's some guys that walked into that had not seen it at all. Neither had you. But they never were around facilities like that.
Yeah. They were like, a lot of guys, a lot of our transfers as well, a lot of the players, they were – like the new players, they were shocked, because they ain't never been to the new arena yet. So as soon as they walked in, when I looked at them, their eyes would just light up, like eyes, they bright open, they wide open, they just excited, just seeing everything, just seeing our new home, everybody was excited. So all the new guys, they were very excited just to see everything. The weight room was very nice, and and the new practice gym is nice as well. So yeah.
So you, Paul brought up some of the players, and you're all practicing against each other. You've converged. You're now all there together. How do you explain what is a fit to be a basketball talent? Yes, but what do you have to be to fit that Baylor culture?
To fit that Baylor culture, I feel like everybody could be a good basketball player, but you just have to be a good person overall, and I feel like Scott Drew a lot of people that he recruit they're good basketball players, but he recruit just good people in general. And, they have they focus, have their head on straight. So, yeah, I feel like he recruit a lot of people like that. Just to be a part of the Baylor culture, for sure, there's got to be it's really not too much on the court. You just got to be a good person on the court and, just be the best version of yourself and, try to be better spiritually as well. That's what I feel like Baylor has helped me. They helped me just be better spiritually. So, yeah.
Jaden, what is the key to you to building chemistry when you have new teammates? And in basketball, especially now, transfer portal, you're transferring yourself, coming in and changing. It happens a lot. How do you there's not really a shortcut to the process, but what do you find is the best way?
From my experience, my 4 years in college, or going on my fourth year in college, the best way to team chemistry, I feel like, is just bonding off the court and just spending time, off the court and hanging out with each other off the court. Just trying to do stuff together, whether that's going, bowling or just spending time with each other, going to each other's house, just chilling with each other. I feel like that's the most important. That's just going to bring the team closer, You know, a lot of people don't know that, but I feel like that's the biggest key for me. You know, we've been working on it, you know, just spending time with each other more and more, but, you know, it's going to take time. But, like, I feel like that's the most important for sure, because spending time off the court.
At some point, you'll be gone. You'll move on to the next level. You'll move on to playing perhaps at the professional level, whatever you might do, and then come back, which is something that you see a lot of former star players, but a lot of former players, whether they went to the NBA, played in Europe, whatever, coming back to Baylor. When that happens, what does that mean to somebody like you or others who are there right now?
Just coming back, just to be able, just to, you know, just to try to help help people that are younger than me and stuff, you know, just like being able just to be a vet, you know, just try to help the guys out, just to let them know that I was once in their shoes, and, you know, that just keep going and just, you know, just to motivate them and, you know, just to teach them new things and everything. So, yeah, I'm going to come back for sure. You know, there's no doubt. I'm going to for sure come back after I leave Baylor.
What happens when you see a Davion Mitchell, a Jimmy Butler, or Keontae George walk into a gym where you are? What does that mean to you?
That means a lot to me. You know, like Maceo was here this past week too. You know, or Davion was here like, you know, last year and stuff when I got here. My eyes just light up. You know, I just try to ask him as many questions as I can. You know, Jared, I try to guard him. You know, I guard him. I feel like I just guard him like it's my last time guarding somebody. It's my last time playing basketball. I just try to, you know, prove a point. And I feel like it's just getting me better, you know, guard those guys like that, you know, guarding Davion, Jared, and, you know, Keontae and stuff. And, you know, I try to play them in ones. And, you know, I just try to talk their head off and just ask them a lot of questions and just try to, you know, work out with them or play them at one-on-one or anything I can do just to, you know, just to get better, you know, just to improve, you know. So, yeah.
How'd you do guarding them?
I feel like I did good, you know, guarding those guys. But, you know, they gonna score. They're professional players, so they gonna score for sure. But, you know, I got some stops in there too, though. So yeah.
What are for fans who may be wondering about some of the incoming players? What can you tell us from your perspective about the new guys coming into the roster?
The new guys coming to the roster, they gonna like the new guys. You know, they strong. You know, they're not just good basketball players, but they're good people as well. You know, we got a lot of depth, and, you know, we're fast. We're going to be a fast team this year. We got a lot of speed. You know, we're going to have a great defense. You know, we're going to be able to just, you know, have a lot of depth and just play, you know, throughout the whole team. You know, we got a lot of people that can play on this team. So, yeah.
How strong is Omier when you guard him? He's a guard, like, you know, but he seems to have that upper body and just seems to be pretty – not thick, but seems to be like he is a load.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. He's strong. I remember the first time I met him, and then I seen his arms and, you know, just his physique. Like, he's just strong. Like, he's like a football player. Then I remember we did the 185 bench press test for the NBA and stuff like that, the NBA testing that we do. He got like 21. And he didn't even try. He could have got like 30. I got 7 or 8. He got 21. Like, that's what football players get around that. And he could have got more. He just stopped because he didn't feel like doing it anymore. Like, I'm like, he don't even know how strong he is. Like, he's crazy strong.
Last thing, you also have new coaches who have migrated in and with others moving on to better opportunities or other things they're doing. How much, and I know there's only so much contact you can do during the summer, but how much has everybody kind of gotten to know the new coaches?
All the new coaches, you know, just going out to lunch with them and anything that we can do just to get closer to the new coaches, you know, or just talking to them outside of basketball, you know, off the court, just being coached by them, you know, they're good people, you know. So I like our new coaches for sure. The new coaching staff, you know, I feel like we have a great coaching staff. So yeah, I'm just excited just to see, you know, the season, what the future holds.
All right, we have not really been able to talk to many players since Coach Drew and the Kentucky story. So how did you handle all that, and what was your reaction when you knew that he was staying at Baylor?
I handle it just by, you know, talking to my coaches, like talking to other coaches and talking to my dad, you know, my family, just my support system, talking to them. You know, I just prayed a lot, just seeing what had happened and stuff like that, and, you know, just going from there. And then, you know, when I found out he was staying, you know, I was excited just, you know, that way I could just, you know, stay at Baylor. Because I wanted to stay at Baylor anyway. So I was excited, just everything to go how I wanted it to go. So yeah.
Jaden, thanks for your time. Enjoy the new part of what now is the Foster Pavilion that's even been made better because things have been finished. And I know there's still a couple of things that have to be tweaked, but compared to what it was to get games in there and now all of the new amenities, enjoy that. Thanks for your time and have a great summer.
Thank you. You too.
Jaden Nunn, Baylor men's basketball player, the senior who's back. I saw the video. I don't know if you guys saw the video of them walking into the locker rooms, and it's just the amenities that, of course, players have. They didn't have that locker room. The Foster Pavilion was basically a court, and most of the stands were done. And now they've been able to work since early March, late February. They've been working on that 24/7 to get that done too.
So I was in and out because I was also working on this next segment. Who is he talking about with the bench press?
Omir,
okay.
The kid from Miami.
Yeah, okay.
And if you look, he's got those shoulders that are
chiseled.
They yes.
Chiseled out of rock, basically, or granite.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that. But to your point about the facility, I'm excited to see. If I'm excited to see them, how do the players feel after what they've been, to your point, dealing with? Where most of their locker room facilities last year?
Farrell Center.
So they would just move over and I didn't really get into the details of that.
They had game day locker rooms for everybody
over
there. But as far as their normal locker room, they were essentially visitors,
right?
Bringing stuff back and forth.
So you take that into account, and that seems like it would matter a bit.
It's annoying.
Yeah, it seems like it would matter and maybe trip you up a little bit here and there. But to have their full meal deal now, I'm sure it was worth it to break it in. And at least what you got kind of like a year to figure things out. And now this year, you would expect everything to be...
You're going to be in the same place all the time.
Yeah, you expect everything to be better because you had a chance to go that needs to tweak or this might, and change what you can and get it just right so that now you're all ready to move in and make it your permanent home. And I think that's awesome. And I would want to see more videos of the actual players getting to check out everything. But what I have seen from both the men's and women's,
the women too.
They're wide-eyed and very excited and lots of new, and it looks great.
Well, Norshad, by the way, is a kid from Miami, Norshad Omir.
Yeah,
he's a stud from Miami.
And the volleyball team's eager to push them out so they don't have to share anymore. On the acrobatics,
and I'm telling you right now, the amenities they had at the Farrell Center. Now, obviously, there's a difference between Foster Pavilion and Farrell Center, but the men's locker room and the women's locker room and what they had, that practice gym, that was pretty darn good.
Yeah.
And with what they've had for a long, long time. But now it's all contained in the same location, which makes it so much easier. Coaches have offices. Players know where they're going. They have the strength and conditioning. They have the nutritional part, all of that contained within the arena.
Yeah. Do you think Ryan McGuire's in there saying, I'm going to put a really slick TV in this office?
Yeah. Somebody go get me one of those tube televisions.
This is where my cool foosball table is going to go. Scott, you need to get out.
They had done some of that. They had done some of that where on the entrance out to the court at the Farrell Center. So they had started that, but they'll be redoing that quite a bit.
Well, thanks to Richard Carr, as always, for that segment. And good to hear from Jaden Nunn. Exciting addition. And I think there's a lot of – after the whole Kentucky saga, I think there's a lot of just excitement and positivity surrounding that program. And there already was, but I think now that you've got over that issue, now you feel like, all right, he's here. If he's turning down Kentucky, baby, and he's got a new arena and he's won a national title, let's freaking go and just smash the pedal. And I'm interested to see what that looks like. And they already were kind of doing that, but now you could always sort of wonder. I don't think you wonder after last year and the whole ordeal.
You wonder if they had not gotten to where the Foster Pavilion was to actually play games inside there, even though it was still areas like the top floor didn't have bathrooms and all that. You wonder if they were still just at the Farrell Center and there was no Foster Pavilion, would that have changed any of the decision-making with Scott Drew?
I think it might.
Yeah, so there we are with that. All right, we turn around in just a moment. Hey, Garrett, do you have the Mac Brown tweet? Then we go to Craig's Off the Radar.
Yeah, one second here.
We got to go. We're way behind.
We usually hit it at 4:45.
No, but we're 2 breaks behind. And
You're just wanting to get the hell out of town.
No, I mean, I want to get in here for this.
Mac
but
Brown, this is a quote from Mac Brown today at ACC Media Days. Every coach recruited against us says, I'm going to quit. And 6 of them have been fired that said that already. So they ought to be worried about themselves. And that's kind of, Mac had always had some kind of like rabbit ears. He kept up with that. But there's Mac Brown with that comment about those trying to recruit against him. He's leaving, and there's 6 guys that are gone who used to use that against North Carolina. Craig Smoke, and Off the Radar, is next. Pioneer Steel and Pipe, the Pioneer boys since 1943. Metal buildings, design it, build it, custom metal buildings that are crafted with excellence. The product you need, the plans you need with what you want is there. The guys at Pioneer Steel and Pipe can help you with that. You can go to pioneerboys.com for more information or go to their facility that's less than 2 years old on Loop 340 and Highway 6 on the east side of I-35. Steel and Pipe, the structural standard, serving you with all the steel and pipe products you could ever imagine or what you would need. Welding supplies, quality protection every day, custom metal, roofing to protect your home. They have the product, pipe, steel, and metal. They have what you need when it comes to the experience, the knowledge. If you need a contractor, they know which ones work rather than which ones slow it down. Pioneer Boys since 1943. New building, I can still say that because it's less than 2 years old. Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco. Bambi SQ, what is the number one reason or 2 or 3 reasons, Bambi, that people should contact House of Travel?
As a travel agency local here in Waco, we can take care of all your bookings, your payments, answer your questions, help you when there are issues or problems, things that may come up that you don't know what to do or how to fix them. People don't realize we don't charge a fee for what we do. It doesn't cost you extra to use a travel agent. We're just here. We get paid by the tour companies and the cruise lines to represent them. But you have an expert on your side that's here and local, and you have a name and a face to put together to help you with anything that you may need. Give us a call. We can price things for you. We can help you answer questions. We can make it simple, easy, and one stop.
Your knowledge of all the years you've done this and then spit it back to them or give them options?
Helps us to kind of know a date range, a budget, what your goals are and what you want to see and do on your vacation. And then that helps us to know what to look for, and we can narrow down and help you make the best choices for your vacation so you get the best value. You get exactly what you were hoping for, and making sure that it's taken care of with a carefree, easy, simple for you type vacation. I've been doing this for over 40 years. Every day I learn something new. I experience new situations and things that I can help take care of for people, whether it's just making sure you get the best deals and find the best vacations, or whether it's to solve that problem, like you've got a flight that's being canceled and you don't know what to do. There's weather coming up. Should I cancel my trip next week because of the hurricane? Those are things that we take care of and you don't have to worry about. You've got somebody that you can rely on that you know is an expert, knows what we're doing, have been doing this for a long time, so that you're not questioning, okay, does the person on the other end of the phone really understand what I'm asking or know how to find those deals? You've got an expert, and we are here to take care of that.
For more information, go to houseoftravelwaco.com.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and Equal Housing Lender.
Our good friend Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jewelers, here at 365 Sports. Now, Brad, people who watch and listen to our show know I'm a double-time customer for you, engagement ring and wedding band, and you guys do that great, but that's not all you do at Boozer's Jewelers.
Absolutely, and I always like to say, it's a new year. It's a great way to start the year out. Go through your old jewelry. Go through your wife's jewelry box. Go through anything you're maybe not wearing, something that's broken, something that you're not using. We do a massive amount of custom work. We can take your old jewelry, old diamonds, old watches, and we can convert it into something special for you and make a one-of-a-kind piece of jewelry. And if that's not something you're interested in, a great thing is we can turn that into cash. So we buy gold, we buy diamonds, we'll buy Rolex watches, any kind of heirloom jewelry, anything that's maybe passed down to you.
Boozer's Jewelers, where do they find you, Brad?
We're at 1025 North Valley Mills Drive, right on the corner of Lake Air Drive and Valley Mills with the big clock on the corner.
Pioneer Steel and Pipe opened their doors in 1943, and they have never wavered with their focus on great product and customer service, relationships with a handshake, making sure you, the customer, is satisfied. Their new facility is now twice the size, allowing new inventory, higher quantities, and in a much more organized fashion. In addition to the long lengths in tubing, angles, channels, rods, and flat, Pioneer Steel and Pipe now offers several shorter, more convenient lengths of material already cut. Their 2,500 square foot showroom has over 1,000 new products in stock, new welding supplies, hardware, quickcrete, and do-it-yourself components for any project, whether you are a professional contractor or weekend warrior. The new facility is designed to make your loading experience faster and more efficient with easy drive lanes around the building and much more room to get your trailer loaded. Our location may have changed, but our values haven't, and our relationship with customers goes much farther than just business. Pioneer Steel and Pipe on Loop 340 and Highway 6 and just east of I-35 in Waco.
This is Craig Smokes Off the Radar, presented by Alliance Bank. They take pride in making banking easy. AllianceBankTexas.com.
Welcome back. Welcome in. Time for Off the Radar here on 365 Sports. Tuesdays and Thursdays at around 4:45, we take a look at a grab bag of news, notes, nuggets, stories, headlines, whatever may be of interest in and around the world of college football, but mostly outside the world of college football as best we can kind of change things up a little bit. And that's where we will start today, is outside of college football and in Oxnard, California, where the Dallas Cowboys have officially opened up their training camp practices and seen all sorts of videos and pictures coming out as a typical routine. But the main thing that really makes it official that the Cowboys have kicked off training camp is the state of the team address that you get with owner general manager Jerry Jones, who, by the way, is now 81 years old. He will be 82 in October. And it just had me thinking, what age was he when they won the Super Bowl?
But in 1992, so we're 32.
No. Their last Super Bowl was not in 92.
95.
What did you say?
29 years ago.
I thought you said their first Super Bowl.
So he wasn't even, let's see, he wasn't 29 years ago. He wasn't even 60 yet.
No, he was not 60 yet. He was, 59 years old, I believe, is what that turned out to.
You look at pictures of he and Jimmy at when they first were seen at
53 years old.
Yeah, he was a young dude.
Yeah, 53 years old. So I just thought that was interesting to take a look at, like, damn, it's been a long time. We know it's been a long time, but 81, about to turn 82-year-old Jerry Jones is up there at the podium, who was 53 when they won their last Super Bowl. That's just crazy, right?
Yeah, it is crazy. He didn't look a day over 88, too, so it's good for him.
It's totally all natural, too.
There were, and not to get political, because God knows, there were some memes about the people, Cowboys fans. Joe Biden was 81, right?
Yeah.
Or, excuse me.
So,
well, he's 81. There's a lot of Cowboys fans. Hey, Joe left when he's 81, in reference to Jerry and his time.
Yeah, Jerry's a bit more spry, I think, still is fair to say, but younger.
I don't know what you're about to show.
Yeah, I mean, he is younger. That is undebatable there, but he did have his annual State of the Cowboys address, and I just thought of the age thing because it's been so long since they won a Super Bowl, but here they are back at it. He's still in charge, still doing his thing at the start of training camp, and he had his State of the Cowboys address, and it's gone, I'd say, somewhat viral because they're all in, baby, and here's exactly what Jerry means by that.
Oh.
Here, I'm all in. I'm all in. Sometimes being all in means you narrow. You remove the months out here that are in the future. And you narrow it down to where all we're talking about is right now and the next playoff season. And that's it for everybody. We're all in. We're all in. It's all right there. Let's okay. We all got some things out here in the future, another 2 or 3 years on contracts, all that stuff. Let's all get in here. Zero right now in this. Dak's got his year. Contract, let's focus right here. We all got a lot on the line for that playoff game. A lot of it. So you've got to understand a weird way of looking at it a little bit with that time.
So there was Jerry, and makes perfect sense to me. They're all in, and how do you guys feel about the State of the Cowboys address?
We have been to many, and I was even at 15 or 20 before I even met you, Paul. He is always about every other year going to come up with something like the glory hole and or this rambling whatever he was saying.
I long for that day.
Yeah.
That was not okay. So
that was a filibuster.
That was a filibuster. Look, they're not all in, because if they were all in, they'd plan for the future, because planning for the future actually, because of the way the salary cap works, helps you win in the present, because they are in salary cap jail. So if they can get out of that, and they are the worst at the cap. Stephen Jones followed this up by saying, well, the Vikings paid Justin Jefferson because they're not paying a quarterback. The Eagles have 5 players over $20 million on their roster, and one of them is Jalen Hurts, who's making over 40. So you can do it if you want to, and every team that's won the Super Bowl in the last 10 years is solid proof of that. The salary cap is a boogeyman that doesn't exist for most teams, but it does for the Cowboys. That doesn't make it any less real, and that one day you're going to have to pay the piper, but there are ways to get around it, or they just have to admit that this is their time to pay the piper, as opposed to saying they're all in. But that was nonsensical garbage from Jerry.
That was just word salad that was hard to figure out, and easy to laugh at, I think, for a lot of people out there. So there was the start of the State of the Cowboys address, or part of it there. You know, Dak talked. He said he had a joke about, I'm just here so I don't get fined. Jerry went on to talk about why he's still the general manager. Like, that's still a conversation. It's been 40 years, dude, of Jerry the GM, but that's still an ongoing thing. He addressed that. He's just comfortable with it at this point. Well, yeah, you're freaking 81 years old. You've been doing it for 40 years. So they are the gift that keeps on giving, though, the Dallas Cowboys, and they have officially opened up camp. And I just wanted to share that since we can't be in lovely Oxnard, which I love dearly, there was a little taste of what we're missing out on with Jerry and the Cowboys being all in. So we'll be talking more NFL as the weeks go by. All right, big story in the Big 12 and in the game of softball yesterday, as Texas Tech made a big NIL move. Nigeri Kennedy, former Stanford pitching ace, committed to Texas Tech yesterday, and word quickly spread that the reigning USA Softball Collegiate Player of the Year had joined the Red Raiders, not only out of the transfer portal, but had done so with a pretty big financial tag attached, reportedly over $1 million, the price for Kennedy, as Texas Tech flips over their staff. Jerry Glasgow is the new head coach there, so they made the move there. I think Texas Tech is a team that, in basketball, track and field, some sports, they've broken through, and if not, are the best in the league. There's others where they've had a hard time kind of busting through that ceiling, but they are very smart about opportunity, and I think they see the opportunity with Texas and Oklahoma leaving the conference of, hey, there's a softball void here, buddy. Let's go out and invest and pony up, and they certainly did that, arguably grabbing the best player in the entire portal to come and join their roster next season. So Nigeri Kennedy, big NIL deal. Texas Tech lands their ace and potential game changer.
$1 million a year. That's the report. It's just over $1 million a year. And I know Kim Coulter, Katie Rader, the Big Lubbock, they're going nuts. There is, from all indications, one coach in women's softball. Oklahoma. Patty Gasso, she makes like $1.6 million. She's earned all of it. UT, is it David White? Makes a little under $700,000, and those are like 1 and 2.
She would be the second highest paid coach in softball.
Which is like
coaching.
Professional sports. Players, for the most part, make more money than the coaches, and you wonder how long before we see that.
Look, $1 million goes a long way in Lubbock, Texas, too.
Oh, yeah.
That's a long way.
Let me tell you something. $1 million can go a long way here.
No, but I'm just saying that $1 million in Lubbock, I mean, cost of you can get a really nice cost of living, pretty reasonable. Yeah, I would say, if I'm a millionaire in Lubbock, that's a good deal. I'm paying less on the dollar than I am in other places.
I feel like you're trying to throw shade, but also backtrack a little bit.
I'm absolutely not.
Okay.
I got to look at the chat room on this.
I'm absolutely not. I'm not. $1 million goes a long way.
It does. It goes a long way in a lot of places, including Lubbock, Texas. Yeah. So, I mean, Nigeri Kennedy, that's just a big deal. That's a big deal for that program. It's a big investment on the part of the athletic department, reigning softball player of the year nationally. And, yeah, set to make 7 figures. I did see a couple of reports that she's looking at hitting a little bit, so I don't know, like, where we fall in line with that.
For $1 million, she better.
Yeah, but, I mean,
she
apparently
better be Ohtani.
that was part of the conversation, and there was more backstory as to why that all came together. It wasn't just a money thing, but Jerry Glasgow, the new coach there, with a huge, for lack of a better term, home run swing and landing the best player in the country. So interested to see what that does for Texas Tech softball, and if they can find themselves jumping to the top of the Big 12 standings with especially the lack of Texas and Oklahoma moving forward.
Yeah, it's a non-revenue sport, and she's going to make over $1 million NIL. Good for her. Good for whoever wanted to pony it up. They still, because Tech, even when they have not been successful in some sports, they are a passionate fan base that sells out their venues.
Yeah.
So at least they've got that going. They got smoked by Texas 3 times at the end of last year in the tournament too, and it was bad, like 20-1. So this is a good opportunity for them.
Do you know what Tech has realized before a lot of schools have? That now with the new rules and scholarships, you're going to – because before, you could have somebody that wanted to pour all the money they wanted to into softball if they had it. But you still are having to deal with 11.7 scholarships and all that. There should never, now that so much money is available to come in and everybody can be in a full scholarship, and this is the last thing I got to say or my wife will kill me before I leave, but there should never be the term non-revenue sport again. That should be over because now there's so much more opportunity available to them. Now there should be higher and lower.
Do the sports make money? Like the softball?
They'll be high, but I think right now, because you've pulled off the guardrails, you pulled the walls down on what you're going to allot to sports and all of that, that allows more money to come in all over the place. Because if I'm a television network and you're going to tell me that you're only going to give 12 scholarships to a team, well, I'm not going to put as much into that as if you're going to give 30 scholarships to a team. So it enhances the value of everything because now more people will do that.
There are still going to be non-revenue sports.
Yes, but I mean, I don't think the term needs to apply the same way it did. That's my point.
Let me see if you have the you-know-whats to sit here and continue on with this show before you get in the car, drive home, pick up Amanda, and head to the airport.
I do not.
Let's name our favorite players alphabetically, starting with A.
I want you to tell me, is Florida State going to be better in football this year?
Worse. They can't be 13-0 again.
Who's their starting quarterback?
DJ Uiagalelei.
How would you rank the top 5 Seminoles all time?
Let's see. Charlie Ward, Warwick Dunn, Marvin Jones, Fred Biletnikoff.
Warwick?
And Jameis. Warwick didn't win the Heisman.
So...
Oh, they should have.
Do you have any kind of superstitions when it comes to Florida State? Do you wear
Not anymore. They've broken my spirit. Now I got to go.
Where are you going on vacation, Paul?
Going to Nashville to see the in-laws.
All right, great.
Yeah, you better.
What are their names? Yeah. How many are there? All right.
One's Rami.
Yeah, so there you go. There is Paul Catalina's graceful exit from this program as he goes towards a few vacation days, but ending on some softball news there. And also should make mention that the scholarship situations are expanding. That's been a talking point this week about the new landscape. And for softball in particular, you had 12 scholarships total that you could work with. Now you will have 25 scholarships to work with in college softball. So you want to talk about investing. You want to talk about the future of sports. You want to talk about the women's sports that are hot right now. Women's basketball, thanks to Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and whoever else you want to credit for that. And softball, college softball has become a bigger deal and is one of those. And sometimes we hear these sports floaters like that's the next big thing. Like we've heard about soccer for 35 years. And it's not. And it's not. But I do think there is something to, especially in this evolving college landscape and the rise of women's sports, to college softball being bigger and better than ever. Same thing for college baseball. Like I think that's only going up from here on out.
I think baseball has been tapped down, or I'm not word. The word's not. They have been held against themselves because of the scholarship.
Yeah, and now that's about to bust open, and look, it's going to highly favor.
34 in baseball, is that right?
I believe that's about right, yeah.
That's 3 times what it is now.
Yeah, so you're going to see programs able to load up a lot better. You're going to be able to see the way scholarships work and investments and how the money flows differently, and I just think it's going to be really interesting to watch. I don't know. I think all for the better. I'm sure there will be some worse aspects to that somehow, like stowing away guys on your roster, but ultimately the freedom of the transfer portal will open that up, whereas guys could be stuck previously well, if you're just clearly being paid to sit on a roster, well, you can leave the next year, because ultimately guys want to play and gals as well. But, softball will be one of those that sees a significant increase in scholarships. So it's just a sport on the rise, and so it makes sense for Texas Tech for the multiple reasons that we mentioned.
When I saw that,
to go in.
I saw that. I knew her because I know she's a great player. She's the player of the year. And Stanford was fantastic. They were in the College World Series. And then when I saw that she was leaving and I, for some reason, saw the number, I was like, would you think she would have gone?
Oklahoma.
Or Texas or Alabama or someone like that, UCLA. But no, it was.
It's a big surprise. Good for the Red Raiders. So interested to see how that plays out for them and their new staff, and good luck to them on that. I'm sure if they have success, we'll be talking about that a lot more. All right, there was a no-hitter thrown earlier today in Major League Baseball. Dylan Cease of the San Diego Padres, the second Padre to throw a no-hitter in that franchise's history. 94 pitches through 7 innings, and you had a situation where he's thrown one. He knows what this looks like. Let him ride was what the manager, Mike Schiltz, said. Was a conversation that he had with Joe Musgrove, who's thrown a no-hitter before, that Joe had told him, like, right in the midst of the heat of the moment, like, hey, he looks pretty good, and here's a guy who's thrown one, right? So you're getting a little bit of that advice, and It's like, all right, go ahead and let him roll. He gets to the 8th inning in only 9 pitches and 11 pitches in the 9th inning and completes a 3-game sweep for the Padres over the Nationals and does so with a no-hitter. He had a no-hitter bid 2 years earlier and fell 1 out short, that's just brutal when you hear guys with perfect games and no-hitters that don't quite cross that finish line, and they're 1 out away. But this time, he gets it done. So Dylan Cease of the Padres, second no-hitter in franchise history, and it comes against the Washington Nationals.
He was traded by the White Sox to the Padres right before the season, and that no-hitter, who's the guy I always mentioned? He's now like with Florida or someone who was at Minnesota. He's a slap hitter. Arias. He was the guy that broke up the no-hitter 2 years ago. It was just a guy that it's hard to get someone like that out.
Yeah, you love mentioning him. Like, you mentioned him a lot in the last couple weeks.
I guarantee you, I haven't looked at stats.
Like, we're talking like Troy Aikman's, that guy that Arias is a damn good hitter.
I'm done.
No, it's just I've heard his name a lot lately.
I'm driving to Paul and Amanda's.
No, go right ahead. Garrett, what do you think about? No. So anyways, I got to mention that Dylan Cease with a no-hitter. That's pretty cool stuff from earlier today. Meanwhile, earlier today in baseball as well, the Rangers win again as they now have won 4 in a row, and a little bit of history on the pitching mound for them, as well as Max Scherzer is now in the top 10. He is number 10 to be exact on the all-time career strikeouts list, passing Justin Verlander as he completed that earlier today. Got his career total to 3,400, passing Justin Verlander with his 3rd strikeout of the game, and he is the most he has the most strikeouts career-wise of any active pitcher. So he will continue to add on to that. But Max Scherzer about to turn 40 in a couple of days.
Yep.
And so he gets a big day on the mound and gets a little bit of history as well.
His earned run average entering today was not bad. It was like 3.8 or 9 or whatever. But last time he pitched, he looked terrible. He looked 39 years old.
That was last weekend we were watching that. He did not last very long.
His arm, apparently, listening to Bruce Bochy earlier, he just had a dead arm. He had nothing. And he got 9, as you mentioned, strikeouts today. Rangers could use that lift. Whether he can do that in and out, I don't know. But that was beautiful what he did today.
Yep, so 3,400 pushes him past Verlander. And Verlander's also active, but he's hurt right now.
He's got a hurt neck.
Yeah, he's hurt, so he's not pitching right now for the Astros. So they could always duel, I suppose, depending on Verlander's health and also Scherzer's for that matter. But good bounce back from the arm fatigue and top 10 all-time in strikeouts now in Major League Baseball history, which is a very cool thing to accomplish.
And my boy Arias is 3rd in the league in hitting. Just wanted to throw it out
there. He's a very good player.
No, he's a very good hitter, slap hitter, but doesn't put up much run production.
Okay, well, he's an all-star based on hearing you talk about him, basically. But no, I'm glad you got a guy that you like watching. All right, and then I think that's about it, honestly. Hit on the softball, hit on Texas Tech. And I guess the final thing, really, because I was thinking we were going to squeeze this in with Paul still here, so I was trying to keep it relatively short. But do you care about the start of the Summer Olympics? They open officially tomorrow in Paris, France. The ceremony will be early afternoon American time, 1:30 East, 7:30. I guess it will air later for others. But yes, 1:30 East time, the start for the Summer Olympic opening ceremonies. I won't get into the details and all of the parade routes and all of that, but I more or less just brought this up because it's going to be ongoing now for the next few weeks. I was definitely more of a summer guy growing up because growing up in Texas, like there was little to no Olympic sports when it came to the winter side, period. The Stars moved to Dallas, and then you kind of got hockey going a little bit, ice skating because now there were a bunch more rinks, but beyond that, we're not a winter sports territory here, but I do love watching the winter. Summer, though, I will always look back on the 96 games in Atlanta as like my favorite. That was like my prime Olympics between the U.S. women's gymnastics team, Michael Johnson, and just being in the ATL. You had the unfortunate bomb situation that occurred on that, but I don't feel like that dampened them or darkened it overall, and that remains my favorite Olympic games to look back upon. But for you, don't sound so enthusiastic, or you not care, or are there certain things you do care about?
No, when there's such a time difference.
Yeah.
And I know they'll replay things in prime time, and I think networks really struggle with this. It's not that I don't care. I will watch. I look forward to the 100 and 200. I know that the men have been sleepwalking in basketball. I will watch. I just won't like, oh my God, it's on right now. It's not going to be like your sister.
I mean, do you enjoy the Summer Olympics? Is kind of my question. Okay, then yeah, there's the question.
Your sister will be like, don't call, text, don't bother her when it comes to the gymnastics part of it.
Yeah, if you send her a gymnastics spoiler, she will show up at your front door.
Yeah, she will show up with a pipe bomb. Yeah. I mean, she's just that into it. She's big into that. That's fine. No, I think the 76 Olympics were in Montreal, and I think that I remember that might have been when guys like Sugar Ray Leonard, Michael Spinks, etc., Leon kind of made their debuts in boxing, which was back then. I love boxing in the 70s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. But the Summer Olympics my favorite, and I will watch the track and field especially.
Okay, do me a favor. Let's just not mention pipe bomb when I talked about the 96 Atlanta Olympics just like 3 minutes earlier, please.
I did, yeah. I shouldn't have brought
but
that
that's okay. Besides that,
we
all enjoy the Olympics.
I actually think my favorite Olympic Games was 1968. I was 9.
60, okay.
But that's when Foreman won. Ran around the ring with the little American flag, this big 6-foot whatever guy, and there was a few others during that time. But I 68 probably, then 76, and I give or take the other ones.
Yeah, I'm not getting my hopes up, but hopefully this is something everybody can kind of, we as Americans, enjoy together over the next few weeks. And I think there's going to be a lot of gold, as usual, in our futures, and some silvers and some bronzes, and probably some disappointments and some heartaches, but a lot of triumphs as well. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm not going to be locked in 24/7, but there are certain sports that, especially swimming, track and field, that I'll definitely dive deep into. So that is getting underway officially. There's some events that have already started, some of like the team stuff. I think the U.S. men got like just totally stomped in like rugby, I think is what I saw a few minutes ago. So some of that stuff is
won 3-0.
Women's soccer. So there's been some things that have gotten started, but tomorrow officially the opening ceremony. So that's why I mentioned it, and we'll sprinkle that in as necessary. But there's a few things off the radar.
We're not sprinkling it in. We will on Tuesdays and
off
Thursdays.
The radar, we will.
On Tuesdays and Thursdays, we will absolutely sprinkle it in. They already have the medal tracker. I mean, there's no medals have been given out that I know of. There'll be a few like for rifle or whatever.
Got to get it up and operational. I mean, it started, so.
Yeah, let me see. I'm going to the full medal tracker to see if anything's even been given out. No, there's no medals that have been given out. All right,
it
Craig,
just started, yeah.
Thank you very much. Garrett.
Yep.
We have the Greg Sankey audio
from
an interview he did in Dallas. We have that in the next segment. We also will get to the next segment, the Tennessee Stadium changes and around the stadium, the fastest college football players, and then Paul's top 5. He recorded that before he dashed home. Yeah. Otherwise, he would.
Y'all hear that?
Oh, God. He was, after about maybe 1 or 2 questions he answered, he started to get very
he got jittery. Yeah. He got very jittery.
He's on his way.
He and Amanda are on their way to where she's from in Nashville for a few days. She'll be back sometime, I think, on the show Tuesday. All right. I don't even know where we are.
No, there's no live.
This is 365 Sports. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center between Richland Drive and Valley Mills in Waco is where I get my cigars. 48-foot walk-in humidor with all of the great brands, nationally and internationally, the best elite brands around the world. And how about this email from owner Josh Caldwell, who told me about a couple that drove in from Fort Worth to Waco purely based on listening and hearing me talk about Don Humidor. They have a pipe that's a bit of a family heirloom that needed to be repaired. They made the special trip to Don's after listening to 365 Sports, finding out we are one of the only shops left that can help them with the pipe. Not only are they going to fix the pipe, and they did, they also bought a new setup, complete with pipe, stand, and some sample tobaccos. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center, just between Richland Drive and Valley Mills in Waco. 48-foot walk-in humidor, great cigars, even what you need when it comes to smoking pipes and repair, and fresh coffee beans. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans with Cheyenne and Josh in the Town West Shopping Center between Richland Drive and Valley Mills in Waco.
Make this the summer of Ram at Allen Samuels in Waco. Drive home in a 2025 Ram 1500 Lone Star for just 2.9% for 72 months with no payments for 90 days. Plus, first responders get an extra $500 off at Allen Samuels.
Some say a dog is a man's best friend. But I tell you what, boys, you better think again. 'Cause there ain't nothing better than some cows, pigs, and turkeys too. I love to cover them in sauce down at Rudy's Barbecue.
Bring all your friends to Rudy's for some tasty oak smoke barbecue.
Next in line.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow @GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student-athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Brad Wilson. Investing is time and experience back to you and your money during today's changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
Paul is gone quickly on his way. He had again going out for the weekend. Roger Dodger in 1984 when the USA team bankrupted McDonald's with the free food giveaway for the United States medals. I did not remember that. That would have been L.A., right?
That's his favorite memory.
Yeah,
the bankrupted McDonald's. I can imagine if I'm sure they weren't taken care of as well as they are now.
All right, I'm glad you brought that up.
But yeah, if you were to have like a bunch of Olympic, especially the calories that they burn in those sports, and then you're like, hey, yeah, you can have free burgers, and I'm sure they tore that up. Yeah. And then it tore them up afterwards because they're lean machines, and that McDonald's probably hit different, although better than it would have in 2024 back then.
Speaking of what they get, one, they're treated, not every country probably has the same amenities as some, although the Olympic Village. I saw an interview. There was one of the female athletes for the United States, and I can't remember what sport, but they were talking about their room. And they showed a picture, a couple of different angles. It looked like a pretty nice room to me, but you got to remember now, these amateur athletes are getting paid enormous amount of money now. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, they're pampered. And, okay, that's part of that goes with it. And you wonder if the Olympic Village, in some cases, if there are some athletes that are like, where are we staying?
Well, I think that's if that's their attitude, then good riddance, because it's the Olympics. It's not the end all be all just because it's name, but I think if you grew up going to the Olympics, you're not so worried about how cozy your bed is. You're worried more about, am I going to win a gold medal?
Wasn't there a recent Olympic Games where they were likely in containers?
It was
the World Cup. It was the World Cup.
Yeah, but in Russia they built that city. Remember, and they had like the dog, like the wild wolves.
Yeah,
and stuff running around.
It's all abandoned now. Basically, it's almost Chernobyl-like in that it's just like an empty area that was just built for that reason. And the World Cup soccer stadium in Qatar, that was the same way.
They were a bunch
but
of
the big story about the Olympics that is, as far as amenities goes, is the fact that France is trying to make it like green friendly. They're trying to make it better for the environment, and so they've constructed like these cardboard beds, which on the surface sounds terrible, but they look pretty sturdy. But they are like, they're cardboard beds that save energy and all of that, and that's what the athletes are sleeping on. So there's been a big to-do about like if that's going to be comfortable for athletes or how that's going to work exactly. And then there was also the whole green strategy of the French to, I think there's like no AC in a lot of places. So what's happened is a lot of like the Americans, for example, are bringing over like all these portable ACs and basically just wiping out all of the gains that they would have made if they had done it the way that it was designed to. Because now they're just like, are y'all going to provide it? We'll just provide it ourselves. And they're bringing like all these ACs to stay comfortable. Let me tell you something.
I'm bringing the AC.
Yeah, me too. I'm an American. I'm bringing the AC. You're right.
You think Steph Curry and LeBron are going to sit there and like not sleep with their AC?
Yeah.
And you wonder some of the beds, because you're talking about 7-footers in basketball, and sometimes they've misjudged that. But all right, couple of things here. Roger the Dodger, Olympics are dead to me. Better when it was the U.S. against the Eastern Bloc, back when it was East Germany, which no longer exists, and also Russia. All right, so Greg Sankey. Greg saw this, listened to a podcast. Greg Sankey was on with The Ticket in Dallas, and Paul pulled out a couple of different comments here. Let's go to the second one first, though, Garrett.
Yeah, I just wanted to set this up. This was from SEC Media Days in the Ticket's backyard of Dallas at the Omni, and their studios, I think, are actually like right there in downtown, so they were practically within walking distance. But is Donovan Lewis, who's an old buddy, and Matt McLaren, who actually used to work, I think maybe at WJOX or same kind of, I think it was there, but he's an SEC guy. He's a Texas fan. And they had him on the show. They had Sankey on the show. And, I just thought, especially with when this occurred, all of the realignment stuff that was swirling about Florida State and the Big 12 and just, all the different rumors, I happened to stumble upon this. And I just thought a couple of his comments were interesting and a little bit more than just what you heard of that opening press conference.
So here's Greg Sankey when he was asked about college athletics moving forward, and really how he was also talking to his own league and others about how college athletics was moving forward, and his idea of what he thought was going to happen in the Big 12 threw a curveball.
Yeah, he had an idea. He started to kind of map out the future, and you'll hear that.
Here's Greg Sankey.
The most direct answer is really in that spring, early summer of 21, as it was coming to a head, you had the realization. Now, it's informed by going back even to my Southland days where you're like, why do people move conferences? Yeah. And trying to think through then what's ahead. But in October 2015, I was the commissioner. I was, I think, 4 or 5 months in. I had my first meeting with presidents, and I laid out some of that thinking. I laid out demographics, so TV households, conference by conference, major TV contracts, and I made an observation that come 22 or 23, you would expect some level of change will be upon us. And my observation was you'll have to make decisions about what you want. in advance and at that time. Now, it happened more quickly. I think the tumult of the COVID disruption caused a little bit more accelerated thinking on a number of campuses across the country. And so I was kind of right on the need to be thinking, but my timing was a little bit off. But that really came to a head in that spring of 21, summer of 21 when the announcement was made. But the thinking and preparation and analysis goes back years. And in fact, right now, I said yesterday, we're really focused on 16, so I don't spend a lot of time on you go to 18 or 20 or 24, what's going to happen there. But you do have to pay attention because there are very clearly a couple schools out there that seem to be unhappy, yet we're focused on our 16 and are respectful of our colleague conferences at this point.
Greg Sankey,
focused on 16, not 18, 20, or 24, but we know that there are a couple of programs who are unhappy, but we want to be respectful of our conference brethren. In other words, we know about Florida State and Clemson. You'd have to be an idiot not to, but for right now, we're going to let that be the ACC's issue and let them figure it out. And then maybe if something happens, then they will pay more attention to it.
Yeah, I don't know. He did probably 100 interviews, and I didn't get to hear all of them. And this is really the only one I listened to that was one-on-one with Greg Sankey. I'm sure there were tons of others. And I know his opening press conference, I didn't listen to that in full, but I know he kind of briefly addressed it and kind of put the kibosh on the realignment talk for the most part. But then I heard this, and I'm like, he totally left it open and ended.
Absolutely the way he did, yeah.
Anything but saying that is totally false. So, I know the last couple of weeks there's been this SEC doesn't want Florida State, and I've maintained the entire time that I don't believe that for a single second, but they just can't really say anything about it right now because they would just create too many problems. And there's been all this talk about the ACC, the Big 12, and I've said I don't really believe that right now, but I absolutely do believe that Yormark's trying to swing it. I just don't think it'll ultimately be successful, because I don't believe that that's going to be their only option, because I don't believe the SEC is not ultimately interested in some combination or the Big Ten or whatever. But, yeah, I mean, I don't spend a lot of time on do you go 18, 20, 24, but you do spend some time thinking about it because you have to, because that's also part of your job. But, yeah, there are very clearly a couple of schools out there that seem to be unhappy, and then he ends it with saying we want to be respectful of our colleague conferences at this point. So
yeah,
that's his own words, and I think that leaves everything pretty open.
So different than what you've really actually sometimes he has said. He was very open about it. I like the fact that he was absolutely leaving the door open. It wasn't saying that they're going to knock the door down or they wanted the door to open, but he did leave the door open. Now, also, of course, there's the addition of Texas and Oklahoma. He mentioned and referred back to July, the summer of 2021, when that story was popped by Brent Zerneman. And the additions of Texas and OU.
A credit to all of our members to rally around the opportunity. It ended up being a unanimous vote, and I have identified and owned the heartburn that's created. Yet my view and the view I communicated was this is not a static environment. And you fast forward the next year when the Big Ten expanded. And a lot of that, what happened, why did you do this, stopped right there. Because the observation that things were changing was not just me saying it, you had outside objective evidence that we were ahead of the curve. And then what happened last year took that kind of analysis to a different level with all of the migration from the Pac-12. And what that allowed us to do was not to be reactive. We were in a leadership position. We had 16 members that were strong. And part of what I communicated back in 2021 through decision-making was you want to be in control. You want to have an influence over your future, not be subject to decisions being made in other places. And I think that's understood. Now, when it comes to rivalries, that can get put to the background pretty quickly. But I think big picture, that's the analysis and that's the acceptance that we needed to continue to change.
Were you surprised at all to see what happened to the Pac-12?
Yes. In fact, when I first positioned the potential to consider Oklahoma and Texas, the very first question from our presidential leadership group was, it's an existential reality for the Big 12. What will they do? Are we going to be responsible for their going away? And I said, well, here's a roadmap, in my opinion, that they could follow to go to 12 members and create stability. I was 75% right on who they'd add. I missed BYU, just thinking they'd stay east, so they made that decision. And then you had seen through some leadership change that there was interest that appeared to be mutual. But the Pac-12 was going through its TV negotiations in the back end of USC and UCLA moving. A clear expression of interest in some schools, so you thought that they would have adjusted and would have gone on to be fine. And then would I have predicted like that you'd have Stanford and Cal in the ACC? I would not have predicted that. Had there been some outreach to us at times over the years from some Western members? Yes. But our president's really boiled it down to we know who we are. Our fans know who we are. They know what they expect. And what we want to do is add the affiliations that meet that kind of it just means more test, which is our catchphrase, which I think Oklahoma and Texas clearly do.
Man, I feel like your phone just never stops.
Yeah, okay, there's one of the comments following, but that the Pac-12 exploding in the wrong way was something he did not see coming.
Yeah, I just thought that was interesting because clearly they were monitoring the situation, and for a guy who appears to have all the answers, I just found it interesting to hear the BYU comment in particular. He didn't think the Big 12 would go west. And not only have they gone west, he didn't think the Pac-12 was going to blow up, but he didn't think before that they were going to add BYU. So not only did they surprise him with adding BYU, even though he thought Houston, UCF, and Cincinnati would be in the mix, but they've gone even further west now.
They have 5 teams in Mountain Time Zone.
Yeah, so they've gone way west, and that was not in his cards, so I'm sure his expectations have adjusted. But just interesting to hear that he got, like everybody else, kind of thrown for a bit of a curveball a couple of times during this last wave of realignment, even though he was at the kind of charge of tipping over the initial dominoes. But, yeah, the static environment, I think that's very much what we're living in right now still. And just the idea of when I heard that part about the Big 12 of him talking to his presidents, and they know they're going to go grab Oklahoma and Texas, but one of those presidents speaking up and saying, like, what if we kill the Big 12 by doing this? And then him saying, well, here's the roadmap. And he was pretty dead on, but like, yeah, I just find it interesting to hear, like, did they even think for a second about like, well, wait a minute, we're going to kill a conference?
No, it sounds like there were a couple of academians that were like, wait a minute, what are we doing here? And he had a roadmap, but the roadmap they used was not what he's expected.
Just the BYU part.
Yeah, they Cincinnati or Houston or UCF or whoever.
That's who he expected.
Yeah,
they would go and get, and that's what I mean is.
But I like that somebody did ask, "Hey, man, are we about to implode a conference?" What they did, but it ended up being the one that's. It ended up being one that no one thought would ever dissolve.
Yeah, so, I mean, to his credit, he was prepared to show them that, like, no, we won't kill them so long as they follow this plan that I think could be feasible for them, and they did 3 of the 4 steps. They just went a step past what he expected them to do, and that was adding BYU and going west when he thought that they would stay east. And so, again, that's the kind of the couple of curveballs that even caught the most knowledgeable guy in the room in a lot of cases. So that's just, realignment for you is nobody knows everything exactly. But, yeah, I found the BYU comment interesting and just the fact that there actually was some level of discussion because you assume there would be, but you just wonder sometimes because it is so cutthroat of like, does anybody even worry about crushing another conference? And there was at least some conversation about it with he and the SEC presidents, but he had already prepared for that with his Big 12 strategy plan. That did not include BYU. So, yeah, thanks to Donovan Lewis and Matt McLaren on the ticket for that interview that I came across, especially Donnie. Love that guy and think he's tremendous. But, there was a lot of interviews, I'm sure, but that one just touching on the Big 12 a little bit and then also very much the big leaving the door completely wide open for anything to happen moving forward, far from any kind of definitive statement on who and will not be allowed and all that. I mean, very much left it open. Now, he could be talking about North Carolina and Virginia, not Florida State and Clemson, so have fun with your filling in the blanks. But the idea that, like, they're, not interested, I think is definitely not the case. So anything and everything is still possible for the most part. And so, yeah, I thought those comments were something a little bit different and something unique to listen to.
All right. Glad you shared that with us, and we're glad. Thanks to Paul for breaking that down for us to use a couple of Sankey comments.
He was interesting though. He was talking about like even back when he was with the Southland president. He's been very smart about how he's moved up, and a lot of that has been kind of projecting the future and projecting realignment and that's why, hey, we got to go get Texas and Oklahoma now because here's what could happen and what I think is going to happen, so on and so forth down the line. So best believe they've got their ducks in a row with all that's ongoing right now, and they will be ready to move if they need to move and when they can move. I have no doubts about that. After I didn't really need to listen to the interview to know that because of the moves they've made previously, but yeah, they're definitely well prepared for any realignment scenarios because he's been doing that for a very long time now.
Okay. Thanks again, Craig, for finding that. Thanks also to Paul for knocking it up, and thanks to Garrett for getting that ready for us. So that was interesting to hear from him. Now, I saw this from Real Analytics. The top 10 fastest college football players heading into the 2024 season. Good. The logos are next to the names. I didn't see that when I sent that to you. Here are the names. And if you look at them, Barian Brown, Kentucky. Brandon Buckhalter, UAB. Kapina Gushkin from Washington State. Then there's Jaden Blue, who had to fill in last year. Remember, they had the injury to Jonathan Brooks, and although they had the freshman that was so good, a kid from Florida, Baxter, Jaden Blue was really good. Dylan Edwards, Kansas State, was at Colorado. Then you also have on the list Isaiah Sendegna from Arkansas. DeQuan Finn, formerly of Toledo at Baylor. Also on the list, you have Marcus Yearns, who's at Delaware. And then on to Kentucky again. And then also to, what was the last one? Whaley. I didn't see where. Whaley's from Wyoming. So those are the fastest 10 max speeds that they saw on tape from Real Analytics.
Yeah, that's cool. I don't know how they do that exactly with whatever technology they use.
They have all that stuff in the uniforms now. And
that's right. Yeah, they got all the sensors and everything like that. So, yeah, I guess that makes it a lot easier to do. And, yeah, that's cool. I mean, Jaden Blue, I can definitely believe that. And Dylan Edwards, cool to see his name on that list. DeQuan Finn. Baylor sure hoping some of that speed will translate this year, and fully expecting him to be named QB1 if he hasn't already been behind the scenes. But come game time, I definitely expect him. He was a big transfer get for them, and his running ability is a big part of, I think, the price tag they paid and also the appeal of going and getting him. So very excited to see him in action, and just hope that he has the blocking up front to allow them to have the freedom to actually maximize his potential and those around him as well. But, yeah, I mean, some familiar names on there. Some I'm a little less familiar with. But now, we'll be on the lookout a bit more for some of these speedsters.
Well, and I was watching video of DeQuan Finn, and one of the runs that he made that put him in this position. He was down, zone read, fake handoff, went off to the side, ran right by a corner, a safety who had a big angle on him, and he just, couldn't catch him.
Are y'all surprised Monterey Baldwin's not on this list?
Yeah.
Especially with, the game just dropping. He's like a 90, I believe it's like a 95 or 98 speed on that. I just seeing DeQuan on here made me wonder, how Monterey didn't make this.
Yeah, I mean, it does. But then again, it's man, how many guys on every team do we not know because we don't follow them very closely of just how fast, everybody's got the fastest guy or even a collection of them. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's very fair to kind of wonder, but I'd imagine there's probably 3 dozen schools that are what about Rodney Smith, But, yeah, Monterey, I would think, has to be close up there because he can boogie. And I don't know what his, 40 times and all that are. But
I'm not sure.
But game speed-wise, he seems he's about as fast as I've seen the last couple of years when he gets out in the open. So, yeah, I would think he's right on the cusp of that, if anything.
So there we are with the fastest players. Again, based on the sensors they wear, what they have technology where they can find – what a player, what max speed that he hits. Tennessee, big, beautiful stadium. Right there on the river. It's a gorgeous view. We've seen it before. Craig, you and I, when we've driven up to the Smoky Mountains. University of Tennessee has unveiled a full look at its proposed entertainment district. 240-room hotel with 60 additional condos, 175,000 square foot entertainment district, retail, restaurants, rooftop restaurant, conference center, pool, and terrace. And there's all sorts of images. You can see them right there on that page. I've always wondered why there would not be, and again, I would think most of the stadiums or hotels around stadiums have, suites, et cetera, in the hotels. But you have 60 condos. If you're a big donor and you have the ability to live wherever you might live, but also if you have to fly in to come to watch games, and you could also have a condo that is there for your taking whenever you want to come back to your alma mater or whatever, that just makes sense. So there we are with Tennessee. Beautiful, beautiful place on the river.
Yeah, I think that's just the new trend, is building like whole complexes around your facilities, especially your football stadium. I think Oklahoma's been working on that. I know Iowa State, the bridge that you've seen so much about, like that's part of their, big picture. And there's been a few other schools that I've seen that have, started to outline or move forward with similar plans. So to your point, I think, if you're a big money booster and you can roll in and you can stay at a stadium that or stay at a hotel that's right across the street from the stadium and has restaurants and bars and everything. I mean, that's all you need, right? Like what else? I mean, unless you're like visiting your kid and you go over to the dorms or something or their apartment, there's that. But going out to eat and going out to drink and have fun and going to the football game, like having it all in one centralized area that's all like Tennessee, or whatever other version of this there will be. Yeah, I think that's a dream scenario for college football fans.
It's also a good way to cut down on like DUIs and alcohol-related incidents.
Sure, yeah. I don't know where that is on their priority list, but
how many rooms was that? 120 rooms or something like that I put up?
You said it, yeah.
60 condos. What was it? Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You just spend the night right across the street.
Yeah, I'm sure there will be plenty of bigwigs that, end up, some of those probably buying them outright or like having their little suites they buy on the top floor. Like I know I would if I had that. If I was a big Tennessee booster that was like one of their big, I mean, maybe you already live in Knoxville. Yeah, you got to have your mansion. You don't need the game day site, but maybe you still want it anyways to host people. I mean, we can play like if I was a Millionaire game. And playing that game, and I was a Tennessee fan, I would definitely have that as far as my budget and all I would want to do entertainment-wise. That would be a big part of it because that's very cool, and I'm sure Tennessee fans will absolutely eat that up and enjoy that. And like I said, various other schools are doing similar things now. I think that's starting to be the new indoor facility or whatever other things have been like the gimmicks of the year facilities-wise. I think now the entertainment complexes surrounding the campus and stadiums has become the new it thing to do.
Yeah. If you really think about McLean Stadium, now it's on the right side, the east side of 35, but where you have the Foster Pavilion and everything down University Parks, and now all the new hotel or apartments and whatever, it is phenomenal what they've done for about 8 blocks or 10 blocks in that area. That used to be where you didn't want to be at night. You didn't want to be in the daytime. They have cleaned it up. They've added things. It's just, and then there's more to go. There's more for them to do. So,
yeah, they won't have anything along those lines because they're just not big enough, but they can have something similar to it. I mean, yeah, you can walk across 35 or underneath, I guess, 35 and get on over to downtown. And so it's a little bit of a separation, but, I mean, you can have, not with the basketball arena. It's a separation from campus and the football stadium a little ways. But, yeah, I mean, if you're in town for a basketball game, you got your hotels, your restaurants, your bars, whatever, all right there. It's just not as big and snazzy as that. But
no.
I think they could incorporate that,
yeah.
As far as continuing to build on that.
Remember one of the arguments from someone that used to work at Baylor was the worry about walking across the street and all that to get to the new pavilion, which was I did it like every time. Yes, I'm also in pretty decent shape, but I mean, there's another parking garage going up. The other one's already up. It's going to be just fine. But that was one of the arguments, worrying about people getting hit going across the street. When you don't do that, you don't. I mean, there's pedestrian areas and, of course, people who are also helping you with the traffic. All right, Paul's out. He'll be back sometime. I think he'll be on Tuesday's show. He, of course, does the top 5 every single day, and he actually recorded 2 or 3 of them.
Like 5 of them.
Did he really?
Yeah, we knocked out like 5 of them.
So wait a minute. Is he going to be like gone on days that we didn't know? Because it's happened before.
No, we have him made to go through Wednesday, so we have 2 when he'll be back. Yeah, so
he's back Tuesday.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, but he's got him just in case
through Wednesday.
Because I know he's what?
Have them made through Wednesday.
Okay. Here's Paul, TexasBeefHouse.com in the top 5.
Celebrate American quality and value during the Red, White, and Blue sales tag event at Richard Carr. Drive the best. Get professional-grade power and first-class interior in a GMC Sierra. Qualified buyers save $9,000 on all 2024 GMC Sierra SLT models in stock with qualified trade-in. Military and first responders save an extra $500. Plus, find Red, White, and Blue savings tags on vehicles all over the lot. Drive home American quality and value during our Red, White, and Blue sales tag event at Richard Carr GMC.
Richard Carr. They have the truck for you. At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
It's time for Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Hello, howdy, how are you? Good day, bienvenue to Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Use promo code 365sports and get 10% off of your order. For the next few days, we're going to go through my preseason top 25. Then after that is done, we're going to go through and do the top 10 teams that just missed it and will knock teams out of the top 25 when the moving and shaking starts going in the season. So essentially, this is a top 35, but who does that? It's insane. I'm not that much of a disruptor. I'm not Brett Yormark here to shake things up. Let's do today numbers 25 through 21. Number 25, Whoop, Texas A&M. Right there, you see the 12-man waving as they were up in this game versus Tennessee. I think they won it. I don't know. It all runs together for me. Being a secondary A&M fan and having Aggie blood, all the pain shifts together, and ancestral angst is just baked into me for that. But Mike Elko will have this team very efficient and very good. This is easily an 8-4 team with their schedule, and maybe even a little bit better. I think the biggest upset, obviously, they have to pull would be at the end of the season if they can beat Texas in that first matchup back. It is at Kyle Field. We'll see what happens, but I do think Mike Elko will have this team much better, much more efficient, and even though maybe their recruiting numbers aren't as big, they've got more worker bees, and Mike Elko fits that vibe in College Station so well. Number 24, UCF. Okay, Big 12 fans, I pained over this one between UCF, West Virginia, and I'll be quite honest with you, TCU. Sonny Dykes has got me maybe believing a little bit again. But I think with KJ Jefferson in that offense with R.J. Harvey, And with Penny Boone, the running game is going to be stacked. They've got really talented wide receivers. The defense will be improved, and it doesn't need to be that much improved for this team to be at least 24th in the country. I think that the Gus bus is going to be a fun one to ride in Orlando this year. The bounce house will be bouncing extra heavy, and I think UCF can maintain something like this for most of the year, even though the Big 12 is super, super hard to predict. Harder to predict than, like, any of the Big 12 teams on here were the hardest ones to put on here in any spot. I have no idea. Number 23, NC State. Now, others might have them higher. I need to see it. And I could buy this team wind up being better than Clemson or Miami, maybe even Florida State at the end of the year if everything goes right. They're always going to be well coached. They've got a veteran fifth-year single caller in Grayson McCall, who comes in after a great career of winning a ton of games at Coastal Carolina. This should be a really good team. They're going to knock your D in the dirt on defense all the time. They're going to be really physical. Dave Doran's got a great team there, attitude-wise and efficiency-wise. If they can stay healthy, they should maintain this or even higher. But right now, I just need to see it consistently from game 1 to game 12 for NC State to stay healthy and be in the mix in the ACC. But make no mistake, they will be in the mix in the ACC, and they will, of those top 3, one of them, they'll pass them. They will pass them, I think, the way this season goes. If again, the arrow continues pointed upward with no detours along the way. Number 22, Oklahoma State. Hold on, I'll duck. Okay, Oklahoma State fans, this is just where I think you are. I think that this will be a really good team with Ollie Gordon. I think they'll beat up on a lot of people. I think that they'll be very physical. I'm just not the first customer at the Allen Bowman store. And I think that they need to get more athletic and better at that position to really contend for this conference title with the new teams in it. I think they'll be Mike Gundy efficient and all of that. But to me, this team feels like a team in the 20s. Number 21, and the last one for today, Memphis. This is my highest-ranked G5 team. Picked them over Liberty, Boise State, and some others, Air Force, to be in this spot for the G5. This is a really good team. Probably the best quarterback overall, and I know that's splitting hairs between him and Caden Salter at Liberty, but Seth Hennigan's really good. They've got really good skill players. Ryan Silverfield can really coach. He will get to see his mentor, Mike Norvell, in the early part of the season in Tallahassee. That's going to be a big game for the Tigers. And things are pointed up at Memphis, and I expect their season to be really, really good and entertaining to watch there in the American Conference. Tomorrow, we will have numbers 20 through 16, and so on, and so on, and so on. We're back to wrap it up after this.
All right, thank you, Paul. Appreciate it. TexasBeefHouse.com, the sponsor of the top 5. And as I mentioned before, the next online auction, August the 7th and 8th. And you can go to TexasBeefHouse.com. A page opens up to bid on beef, and it shows you a lot of the rules and what they have. And eventually they'll put the catalog up that is so special with the kind of product that they have.
So he's doing a top 25. That's why he sorted it out that
like
way.
That,
yeah. And so interested to see where he takes that. But, good to have those top 5s, even though he's going to be gone for a couple of days. But, clearly starting the countdown of the rankings there.
Yeah, that's I don't know if I'm smart enough to do the top 25.
You could do it.
I mean, it literally just – sorting 25 teams.
Yeah,
it's
no,
not that difficult.
I think I could go 1 through 15 pretty quickly, and then after that,
do you think anybody really, I think there are some, but do you think most of the guys voting on this really pay attention past the top 10 to what they're exactly doing?
No, and it's obvious when you every single week in the preseason poll when it comes out in August 12th or whatever it is, there will be 1 or 2 group of 5 schools between 22 and 25. There will be. It'll either be Boise or Memphis or Liberty or whoever it is, be in the top 22 through 25, and it'll just be a churning of Coastal Carolina when they were hot with what's-his-name, Chadwell was there. So that's just the way it is. But I would take it's like when I picked the all Big 12 poll this year, I thought it was easier. But when I go to pick a team, man, I don't want to miss somebody that's so obvious. Even though they don't say, this is David Smoke's team, I don't want to miss the obvious left tackle for a school that I just overlooked because I wasn't paying attention.
Well, they do that for the top 25 voters. They have
they do. No,
they have the matrix thing that you can look at who voted and where they're from and all that.
Is it worth doing that? Like I'm a Heisman voter, and I don't worry about reaction, but the top 25, you do it, it's got to be a great thing to be able to do, but man, you do take some heat.
You do, but I mean, I think I'd rather be able to say I had the honor of forming my own top 25 than like, oh no, Larry on Twitter yelled at me because NC State was 24 instead of 17. Like, I mean, who cares? So yeah, I'd much rather have the honor of putting that together and being yelled at than not have it at all.
No, that's a great point. It's an honor to be a part of that. It really, really is. Garrett, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Emery Winter. Appreciate you, too. Thank you very much for what you do. Emery's dealing up all the editing and putting everything together for the 365 Sports every weeknight at 10:30 on the local CW.
So I don't think this has been mentioned, but I think I'm correct in saying media days are done now. I mean, as far as the
all right,
big conferences.
Big Ten, ACC.
Finished today, right?
Yeah, American was this week. I believe
SEC was
the
last
Sun
week.
Belt. SEC last week.
Yeah, there might be some like of the smaller. I'm saying of like the biggest conferences. Like everybody's done their media days now.
I'm not being smart ass here. Has the Pac-12 had theirs?
Yeah, remember they had the night in Vegas.
Yeah, they were in Vegas. That's right. And along with the Mountain West, right?
Yeah, because we talked to Ashton Genty.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Just curious about that.
Yeah, you're about to poke at the Bees and Cougs. They're like, no, baby, we've already had
ours.
No,
I was not. I was
the
actually,
one night.
I mean,
soiree.
I know, but you know what? We were kind of. You're right. They were there. They were in Vegas. I wish we could have had a chance, a little bit more time, and we weren't so tired when we got there. By the time we could, like every night was a grind.
Actually, would have been cool to go over there and just see that, but we were just too tired. I mean, like the entire time we were there, it was basically trying to find sleep and then just being at the Allegiant Stadium for most of the day, which was fine because it all was very worthwhile and it was a lot of fun. But yeah, I was just commenting, looking at my calendar here, of like, oh dang, I just realized like we're through media days now.
Went. Over a 2.5-3 week period. Done. Garrett, thank you again. Emery, thank you. Sir. Our sponsors, thank you. Those in the chat room, I saw a couple of more testosterone level fights going on. And that's okay. I love the passion. Thanks to all of you that were a part of that. The text line today. And then those who are watching us now, and a pretty good chunk every day on Twitter at 365 Sports YT for YouTube. Thanks to the Sikkim 365 app. I'm David Smoke. For Craig Smoke and Paul Catalina, good night. Have a great night, 365 Sports.